Go ahead and call to order the December 2025 Victorian Village Commission hearing. Our next business meeting will be Wednesday, December 30th, 2025. And that's going to be at 12 noon, and that's going to be 111 North Front Street, second floor, room 205. That's the small room that's right adjacent to us. The next hearing date would be Wednesday, January 14th, 2026. Crazy 2026 at 4 p.m. And that's going to be 111 North Front Street, second floor, room 204, which is the room that we're in. Go ahead and swear in staff. You state your name.
Yes, Jacqueline Mizell.
Perfect. Tell the truth and nothing but the truth.
I do.
Thank you, Jacqueline.
Thank
Introduction of commissioners present, and this time I'm going to do it a little bit different if that's okay. Only because I think we have a new commissioner, which is awesome. So Zach, thank you so much. Really appreciate, your service and stepping in and joining the team. So appreciate it. So you just state your name and then I'll just kind of go down the line.
Zach Romer Jordan.
Awesome.
Tim Skinner.
Sean Conyers.
Kevin Parzik.
Reed Sprite.
Awesome. Thanks, team. Overview of hearing format. I don't know, Jacqueline, if you want to touch on any of that or.
Sure. So we'll get, when we get started here, we'll touch on public forum. We don't have any public forum this evening.
Okay.
And we'll have the commission do a vote to approve the staff approvals into the record, and then also approve on the past hearing minutes. And then once we get started, we'll have the staff read out the staff report, or the commission will call the applicant in, swear them in. Staff will read the staff report, and then we'll begin the discussion between the commission and then the applicant.
Awesome. Perfect. Thank you. Is there approval of staff approvals, team?
Motion for approval of staff approvals.
Awesome. Is there a second?
Second.
Perfect. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passed. Do you want to read off any of them just for any abstentions?
Yeah, absolutely. So we have 188 West 4th Avenue, 344 West Hubbard Avenue, 308 West Hubbard Avenue, 197 West 4th Avenue, 367 Wilbur Avenue, 1050 Neal Avenue, 152 to 154 Wilbur Avenue, 297 West 2nd Avenue, 231 West Hubbard Avenue, 967 Delaware Avenue, 240 Collins Avenue, 985 Delaware Avenue, 315 West 2nd Avenue, 52 Victorian Gateway, 1042 Harrison Avenue, and finally 10 West Russell Street. Abstentions? Okay.
Perfect. Is there a motion for approval of the minutes from the November 17th hearing?
Move to approve the submitted minutes.
Perfect. Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion at all, team at all? Anything? Okay. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? No. Yes, obviously. Thank you. Perfect. And then Jacqueline, just turn it over to you for, I guess, our applications.
Okay. Our first one is staff recommended applications. This is 875 North High Street, COA 2501272. And I will pull up the meeting materials here. And then, Mr. Chair, I know each commission can be different. Do you swear in the applicant first for Victorian, or do we wait till after the staff report?
Go ahead, but they can come up. If the applicant is in the audience, they can come up and then let you go ahead and read your report, and then I'll swear them in.
Sounds great.
So that applicant one, it's just, yeah, perfect. Thank you, Jacqueline. Yeah, and whatever rhythm helps with you too as well. So it's
All good. Adaptable.
No worries.
Okay, and were you wanting to swear them in or
No,
after?
good.
Okay. All right, so first up, we have that 875 North High Street application. So this is a proposal for signage. I'll scroll down a bit here. This is a staff recommended item. It is just outside of what we can staff approve, so that is why it's on the agenda, but it is staff recommended. The proposal is for a new non-illuminated blade sign, which would say workbox. And the materials would include an aluminum cabinet with a 4-inch return depth, a 1/2-inch thick flat cutout painted acrylic logo, which would be stud mounted. And then they have emphasize or included the specifics that this would be installed into mortar joints, so it won't be installed into any masonry, or it will avoid damage to any masonry. I'm bringing up the overall map here so you can get a general idea of the location. So the proposed signage is generally consistent with the city code and guidelines. The applicant, as I mentioned, has confirmed the fasteners will be installed via mortar joints. So the staff recommendation is to recommend approval of COA 25-01272 at 875 North High Street as submitted, with any and all clarifications to be submitted to HBO staff for review and approval prior to issuance of a certificate. That recommendation is based on the City Code 3116.13, letter C, standards for site improvements, and the Short North Design Guidelines. Thank you.
Thank you. State your names and get you sworn in. Perfect. 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 Do you both agree to tell the truth and nothing but the truth? All right, thank you. Is there anything that you want to add to the application? Pretty straightforward, understandable. Just wanted to be sure. Okay, perfect. Team, any comments at all?
Not for me.
No, I didn't think so. I think that was pretty easy. All right, is there a motion? I think there was just one clarification. I think it's just the mortar joints was kind of confirmed from that perspective. So,
Yep.
Is there a motion, team?
Motion for COA 25-01272 875 North High Street as submitted, with the clarification that attachment via mortar joint is confirmed.
Awesome. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. Any further discussion? Perfect. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passed. Thank you. Really
Wonderful,
appreciate it.
thank you.
sir.
We'll follow up within a couple business days with the COA approval. Thank you. This up here. All right, so our next one is 889 North High Street. Okay, so this is another sign application. We've got the overall image here, and the application is COA 25-01252, again at 889 North High Street. This is a proposal for a wall sign on an existing canopy. So this will be on this canopy right here. And this would be a 12-foot by 1-foot 6-inch non-illuminated channel letters. The channel letters will be 2 inches deep and painted white. The sign is to be installed on a 3-inch deep aluminum raceway that will be mounted on top of the existing canopy. The proposed signage is generally consistent with the city code and guidelines. The proposed square footage is 18 square feet, which is under the 25 maximum for wall signs for the Short North Design Guidelines. Additionally, a similar sign for bonobos is currently present on a canopy that's on the same building. It's just a few storefronts down, so this is going to look quite similar to that. And I might be able to bring up the street location here so you can get a look at that. Oh, I need to open the agenda up. Look over here. So if we go a little bit further down, you see on the same building, they also have a very similar type of sign also on a canopy. And that staff recommendation, again, is based on the City Code 3116.13, letter C, standards for site improvements, as well as the Short North Design Guidelines. And with that, I'll hand it over to the commission.
Can you state your name, sir, and get you sworn in? Perfect. Do you agree to tell the truth and nothing but the truth? Thank you. Anything you want to add about the application at all?
Just that, she could have stated that on it was a sign, but the property owner has been fairly restrictive, where this sign is non-illuminated, and fairly simple. We're basically trying to align it with how that Bonomo sign is done.
Yeah.
So trying to match it pretty much exactly, doing a raceway, mounted to the top of the canopy, the white, non-illuminated letters. So yeah, that's kind of my other comments.
Awesome. Perfect. Thank you, sir. Any thoughts, team? I just remember this project back in the day, and I think that there was a signage package in the spirit of the signage, and it seems like they've been trying to uphold that. from an owner's perspective. So I don't have any concerns from a context of the prior approval way back when, so.
My only comment, I don't think it's a issue, is it appears that Bonobos sticks outbound of the canopy a bit. There's some relief there. And I only pick up on that because the B in this new one just, it extends below
Mhm.
that. Again, I don't think that's a issue, but just something to be
I see.
aware of for any precedent setting of.
Yeah, I think our goal is to mount our raceway flush to the front of the canopy. They do have that B in their logo that, that's how their logo is. And so that little part would drop below. Would probably be, looking at the drawing here, probably around 5 inches or so.
Okay.
But it would stick out. It's the canopy.
Right. I think it's the appropriate placement, just
For sure.
drawing attention to that for future reference, if nothing else.
Okay. Any thoughts or concerns though, big picture? You
No.
good? Okay.
No.
Anything, Zach? You okay? Awesome. Okay. Perfect. Anyone, a motion?
Yeah, I
accordingly to-
would move to approve COA 2501-252 for 889 North High Street to be approved as submitted with all clarifications submitted to staff.
Awesome. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Reed. Any further discussion? Perfect. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passed. Thank you, sir. Really appreciate it. Mhm.
Our third one is 28 Buttles Avenue. All right, this application, it's COA 2500778. So this is a continued application. The proposed work description is to create a third floor exterior patio per the submitted documentation. To add a new 36-inch matte black guardrail behind the existing parapet wall. Patio flooring would be new tile tech paver over the existing EPDM roof. They would be creating a doghouse for new stairs to measure approximately 9 feet tall with new clapboard wood siding with the 5-inch exposure to be painted antique white. And they'd also be using a shingle color to match the existing roof finish. The access door would be a full light wood door to be painted white to match the existing trim. If we scroll down just a little bit, this property, if I can get an image here, it might be easiest if I go to Street View. So this property includes a contributing 2.5-story brick multi-unit building constructed in the early 20th century, which would be sometime after 1901 but prior to 1910 per Sanborn mapping and based atlases. A low parapet at the east at 28 Buttles over here contributes to the roof design of alternating pyramidal, mansard, and gabled roof forms and dormers facing Buttles Avenue and Park Street. Low parapets separate the units, and there are flat roofs closer to the rear elevation further along North Wall and Park Streets. At the November hearing, the commission had reiterated the applicant to ask Building and Zoning if a flat hatch door could be supported. The commission had recommended looking into different hatch types that have hydraulics, which would allow for interior stairs, noting they want to make sure that the option is fully vetted. For the doghouse, the commission know they had concerns since they are up against preservation code and guidelines and want to make sure that they are not setting a precedent and need to do that due to their diligence in their review. The commission had requested the applicant provide 2 design options to review between the doghouse and the hatch with concern of the height of the doghouse. The commission had requested more information on the installation of the flooring as well as the railing with it being so close to the parapet. The commission had requested revised drawings to show the railing stepped back to not impact the parapet. The commission had requested more information on the drainage detail since the flooring will be level in comparison to the pitch of the roof. The commissioners had concern about the sizing of the open strip for the draining opening, if it could allow for birds or animals to come in, or how visible that opening will be from the grade. The commission had recommended maybe adding trim to add to the opening to lessen the opening size and visibility. The commissioners had additional concern on the height of the floor in the existing parapet. They noted that they need additional drawings to provide that clarity on how this will interact together with keeping the patio, pavers, flooring flat and level, and requested the detailed drawing be updated for the different angles to understand the proposed installation. The commission had asked the applicant to include TPO maintenance depth and other roof penetrations that are existing on the roof, such as chimney or stacks, to help build out the materiality of the existing roof. The commission had asked the applicant to include lighting information and what shingle they had selected from the approved list. And the commission had asked for additional roofing detail on where the door comes out onto the stair, what that would look like, and how the horizontal surface of the pavers interact to the overall height and what that does to the fascia, noting there'd need to be some space between the parapet and the rail. So in response to the commissioner's feedback, the applicant has submitted 2 proposed roof options, which are sheet A 101 and then sheet A 102. Bring this up here. And there is a penthouse and glass roof hatch study on sheet S100 and revised renderings on sheet R100. So rooftop floor plan option 1 shows tile pavers and gravel fill with the guardrail set back from the gravel. And then rooftop floor plan option 2 shows the previously proposed roof plan with no setback. Staff recommends that the applicant include feedback from building and zoning to confirm whether the building and zoning department could support a flat hatch door per the commission feedback. In general, staff recommends either continuing application COA 2500778 at 28 Buttles to allow the applicant time to submit the feedback from building and zoning, or approval of the application with the following conditions, and that is that the railing is set back, that would be option 1, and painted to minimize the visibility of the railing. And then that approval is contingent on building and zoning approval with any clarifications to be submitted to staff prior to issuance of a certificate. The basis for the staff recommendation is the City Code 3116.11 standards for alteration, specifically numbers 1, 9, 10, 11, and 12. And then the City Code 3116.13 standards for site improvements, specifically letters A and B. And with that, I will turn over the commission. Thank you.
State your names, guys. Perfect. Both agree to tell the truth and nothing but the truth. All right, thank you. So first of all, thank you. Now, I know this is a lot, so I know we're kind of building off of that. So if you guys, I think last time we got through option A, which was, I'm going to say item A, which was more the landscaping component, right? So this is more about just the terrace. So if you guys can kind of maybe point us to things that have changed in terms of responsive, and then we'll maybe turn it over to some comments and see if we can get through it quickly. Is that okay?
Yeah, that's fine.
Awesome.
So the biggest thing kind of from last time as far as changes to the design of that upper terrace area is, of course, one, setting back that railing so it's not as visible from below. We did take 2 foot on that. One simply because of, one, it does pretty much mostly make it where you really can't see that railing from that side alley area whatsoever. But also it works out well with those tile thick pavers, it's like part of 2 foot by 2 foot. So it works out well for where this can apply at.
Makes sense.
Other thing with that as well, as far as we went into researching for that doghouse / well, what I'm really gonna call it now is gonna be a pet house up top there. Started going through the codes, also discussed with City of Columbus building zoning. And as we looked through the codes, there were a couple different things we were seeing that were issues with the flat hatch style instead. And some of the issues that we were able to get past, like one was actually opening that hatch while you're standing in the stairway. That was one issue they're gonna have. However, there was one that we could actually do a power hydraulic with. You could switch the bottom step to go ahead and open that. So that would have taken care of that code issue they were gonna have with it. But the biggest thing was, since this is considered an egress point off that roof, our biggest ones are, and actually the codes to refer to, is one is the landing code, which is it's RCO 311.3, which is for egress of floors and landings and exterior doors. It says there shall be a landing on the floor of each side of an exterior door. This is in regards to the egress door. Width of the landing shall not be less than the door served. Lady shall be dimensions not less than 36 inches, measure the direction of travel, which also needs to be 36 feet wide for that stairway as well.
For sure.
That's one of the biggest issues we had if we tried to go to that flat hatch. Because once we had the flat hatch, as I researched the longest one that we could get, once you put that landing in there, we start running into issues of headroom clearance on the stairwell. That we start getting underneath our 6'8" minimum headroom clearance. The other issue we're running into with the flat hatch was having to break our handrail. Because we had to be able to actually be able to hold on to the handrail, and grab another handrail, while on the same step and not going up another step or two to get out of that handrail. So in regards to that, we couldn't find any solution with the building department to allow us to use that flat hatch and still be able to be within RCO and OBC codes for egress. We tried, we had by at least an hour phone call with them to see if there's any way we could design it, but the penthouse was the only true way we could get access up there and still maintain our compliance with RCO and OBC code for egress on that.
Awesome.
I think that's pretty much. The other thing is, the other thing, for that trim piece we kind of discussed last time with potential birds or animals getting access into there. I did do a study on that. I think I included a detail showing what that opening would end up being. We are supposed to put a solid trim for there. I don't want to use anything that's even treated wood because it's potentially getting much to drop with all the rainwater and everything. I did leave, I want to say that around about an inch down there, maybe just a little bit over an inch. And I want that to still allow water to flow out that way. I don't want to put a piece of like perforated metal or anything down there to make no entry whatsoever. Just I don't want really larger debris potentially start clogging that. Now, if we ever do have issues of any kind of anything else getting into it in underneath that floor system, those pavers are removable, so it's easily accessible for us to service that and leave it out as well. So I don't see any issues of that. If anything does get in there and does get washed, it can still be serviced very easily. It's not going to cause an issue of keeping water back on the roof, making potential leaks and so forth, let it roll down.
Awesome. Anything else? Okay, perfect. Thanks, guys. Really appreciate it. Helpful. So maybe just hatch versus penthouse based upon, I know there was some conversation of being able to try to help study that a little bit more just to understand. So appreciate the context of kind of working through that in the study. Any thoughts at all, team, on just concerns or the outcome of the results of the hatch?
Yeah, I mean, I appreciate you doing the due diligence there. And you can only push them so hard. I mean, I can't understand the landing conversation for the life of me because of, whatever, that's not my decision. Like, I don't understand the logic behind it, but I take your word for it and I take their decision at face value. I did spend some time today looking at this because I kind of anticipated this discussion. I did some Google Earthing today because I just wanted to be able to, precedent is a concern here. And what's interesting is the example that we cited of dog houses, the only one I could find was the ones just up the block on the new construction. And I scoured the area of rooftops in the whole neighborhood. It's hard to even find a finished flat rooftop in the neighborhood. I could not find just a flat rooftop that was that had a terraced finish. You find decks and things that are outcroppings of existing structures, but I couldn't find. Not that they don't exist, right? I mean, it's not like I did a full survey, but that's something worth considering here. So, like, if we're going to agree to a penthouse, doghouse, whatever, there might be a way to limit the precedent in terms of, you've got one just on the block up the street or something, but it is also new construction, as opposed to historic building. But I do want to make sure that we as a group are kind of aware that it's a fairly unusual circumstance. So, but you know, I do appreciate the hatch discussion, and I think I can probably kind of back down with that from that perspective.
Awesome. Good. Go ahead. On the hatch.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of came to a similar conclusion that that's the only other example I can come up with. And I can go back and forth. I can talk myself around in circle on the appropriateness here. You know, I think it's interesting, the views that we have seen, I think are probably curated. So, you know, it's a view that you don't see that. I'm curious, once you start rotating around towards the west, if there's more of a glimpse of that, and what, you know, that kind of jumps out to me. I think it was probably accidental, but the view to inset rail shows, I think probably the building got copied over in the distance on the
Right.
model.
Yeah.
And there you know, as you change your vantage point, that starts to become a little bit more in view as opposed to if you're right up on it. So there is something to those selected views that do when you're up against the building. And I think that streetscape experience is really, really important. And so the fact that that is mitigated from the streetscape, I think is a check. But I am curious now seeing that. It's like, what is the true view as we start to move back, as we start to wrap around the building?
I will say like that Q2 of the inset rail where you can see the other building that's on out distance there. As far as like scale wise and how far away that is, that's probably roughly, if I was looking at least 2 to 3 blocks.
Yep. Yeah.
So there would be quite a few buildings.
Obstructions. Yep.
Really wouldn't see that building whatsoever.
Yep.
Granted, it's still stuff that we were trying to get these put together for this hearing and everything, so I'll have
Completely understand. I think, again, I recognize it was probably an accidental thing, but it does kind of draw that that idea in my head of, okay, what really is happening as we do shift back. And you're right that as you get further away, there are other obstructions visually that start to impede that view.
And that's what in like the view one of the inset rail and concept rail both. As far as scale wise for how far over that is, I try to go back to where, okay, we're pretty close to being like on the other sidewalk of the street, to give us a further back vantage point where if you are on that sidewalk, that's the highest point you're roughly going to be on the street where.
What is the proposed roofing material for the doghouse?
So the proposed roofing material is a Owens Corning 3-tab estate gray.
Is that on,
Yes.
I don't know, is that part of the approved shingle list? Okay.
Yeah, because I went through that approved list and checked, just basically went down through it, looked at all those different shingle types and saw which one actually matched up with the existing shingles that are on.
Okay, so, looking at the front facade, and let's say you're in the park, right, pretty far away, what you'll see is, consistent with really the front of the building. Yeah, there's elevations there. It must be from the past materials.
Yeah, I think
or
it
something.
was. I was on A200, I think it
Sure,
was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, from my perspective, thinking about the iterations of this application that we've seen, I think, the location of the doghouse on the roof, I think the section drawing demonstrates this is like as short as something can be. It's the height of a door and a header is really what's driving the height of the doghouse right now, not to mention the code minimums that you'd alluded to. So I'd be curious a little about that. We even have the flat portion of the roof that turns down over the landing. Might need some special detailing there or something to really make shingles work, but still, I like that profile as opposed to just a continuous plane going up because it makes it shorter. So, I think the the fact that the railing is set back in option one is helpful, certainly for, you know, preservation of the building profile and the stepping parapet. And I appreciate too the thought given to the way to close off that system at the gutter. So generally, I'm encouraged personally about I think what's referred to as option one in the A101 sheet. And I think, you know, the temporary, you know, the fact that these flooring, you know, the deck pavers are removable to get access to the roof. You know, it's a system that, you know, I can see not something that's permanent, so to speak, right? It's not something that's going to alter the character of the structure long term, and even could be removable in the future if a home, you know, if an owner wanted to remove it. So that's kind of my thoughts at this point. I think it's made decent progress since we first saw this application quite some time ago.
For sure. Awesome. I would agree with all the comments that are being mentioned. Could you just give us a little bit of context on the material for the sides of the penthouse?
Yeah, so I think you actually showed, so the sidewall material will be
No worries. Sorry about that. I knew I picked up on the roofing material, you know, as Kevin had mentioned. I just didn't know the side. At one time, really, I'm just kind of thinking back from history with the vinyl was proposed and you guys pulled that back. So I just didn't know what material. So that way the team knew.
So it is the.
That's all. Just couldn't find it. I tried.
I know
So it's gonna
A101
be,
has material
new,
on it.
new wood platform siding.
Okay.
And we're gonna paint it antique white.
Okay.
And we chose that color because that color is the closest to the existing brick that's on.
Gotcha.
The structure already.
So that's,
So it's not gonna stick out.
I see it now. I was looking at the drawings and looking for but the images are over to the right and I see it now. I apologize. That's perfect. Okay. That helps that clarify. Okay. I would just concur. I think that we were, as a group, the survivability of the existing structure, given the sensitivities, and this one, there really isn't a precedent. So I think we wanted to be really, really clear about the existing structure, making sure that we were being as sensitive as possible. So I think all of the detailing, the pulling back from, you know, the parapet, really trying to work through those, we really appreciate that. I would just echo the team's thoughts. No concerns. I think that the interesting kind of contextually, like immediately the adjacent new build kind of stuck out to us. And given its context, I think we have a little bit of a kind of an interesting, unique condition that we should reference, even though that's a new build as it relates to the location of this property. And I would like just for that to just kind of be known. To Reed's point about the sensitivities of precedents and things of that nature too as well. So,
Well, and I was thinking too, as you were talking, you know, the code and guidelines permit building additions.
Yeah.
Right. This is a building addition and it's done in a way that's as minimally invasive, I think, as you could be.
Awesome.
So
Awesome.
One other thing I'll add, I think, to the commentary of location and uniqueness is, you know, when you fly around, I think the view of this is actually going to be from above, and we do have structures nearby, newer structures that will look down on this, but they're newer structures or high street. I think that contributes to the uniqueness of location here, in addition to that proximity to the new builds down the street. So I think add that into the mix.
Awesome. So.
I think one thing that I'm looking at with this, and I think it's probably been discussed a little bit in the past, but is the guardrail barrier that's being used. To me, those posts feel a little chunky, and I know that, you know, the intent is to try to kind of that black to kind of let it go away. I wonder if, you know, similar style, but if there was something that was a little bit more modern and a little bit more sleek, if that wouldn't minimize a little bit more. Be clear that it was not, you know, I don't think people are going to think that this was original to it, but be clear that it is an addition to it and not try to look like something that was original to the structure. And I think that would help as you're seeing that kind of going around those pretty thick kind of pillars that go around. If that's minimized a little bit, might help that whole thing go away a little bit. And I appreciate the setback on the side. I guess I kind of wonder, is there something on the rear of that as well? If we pull that back just a little bit, does that help with that view as well, pulling it?
So pulling it back off the back side.
Yeah, just a little bit. You know, if we're doing it on the side, and then when you get to that back side, you see that it's pulled back, but that piece is all the way back there at the gutter. And I mean, I know you want the square footage of as much as you can get kind of up there in that space, but I think if, you know, just a foot or two would go a long way in kind of minimizing the impact of that visually within that space, especially if we're able to minimize that guardrail a little bit, make it a little bit more sleek. I think that would help.
I mean, I'm sure we could pull that back. I'm trying to go off that right now. There isn't the issues we would have. I mean, as far as we'd have plenty of space for landing in front of that door.
Yeah.
Because we'll have 36 by 36 in front of the door itself. And of course, there's plenty of space there for that area. Same thing. We definitely want to maximize as much space up there as possible. Are we super happy about only 2 foot back on one side already? Not. We wish we could have all that space there as well. But I also understand by pulling that back, making it to where you really don't see it all as well, even from the ground. So we would love to leave that rail back on that backside as close as we possibly could keep to that edge. The only other thing I think about as far as trying to keep that rail there is as far as for maintenance, if we ever do get any material that do start to come up against that trip board, the edge, and we're trying to unclog or clear that out. If we have 2 foot of space that we can't get right up against, like pull that tile paper up, then that makes it a little more difficult to be able to actually clean that outside of trying to stop that gutter at that point. If we have that rail stepped in, that additional 2 foot or so. So that would be I'd say as far as maintenance wise, that probably my biggest concern about bringing that rail in another 2 foot on that backside edge of being able to get to that edge where we can have that skirt board to keep any animals and so forth from getting in. For us to be able to maintain it, clean that out, keeping that railing there is going to help, as well as, I mean, honestly, as I'm thinking about it, the posts for our railing there are a little bit of what's helping to keep that skirt board there as well, to cover up that edge. Since the paver system, those are PVC, and it's not going to be a super easy way to be able to connect that trim board to those PVC pieces versus the actual post columns themselves.
Product data on, very helpful. Just product data on the railing. I know that you guys have a spirit of an image, but is that something that you guys would feel comfortable taking if it was in the motion of being able to work with staff and if the team was able to kind of identify, you know, maybe some kind of dimension or something like that, that would kind of take the spirit of what you're asking for, Zach? And, you know, is that okay? Does that seem like that's a way to work through that?
Do you know approximately the size of the posts? The system.
Approximately those ones right now are 3.5 by 3.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. And you know, because right now, like it says a 36-inch rail, and it may end up being by the time you get through the city, it may be 3'6", you know, just 42.
So
Yeah.
reason we picked that style rail is because we were trying to, you know, appease
Yeah.
the Victorian-like nature of this, but if modern is something we can do, I mean, I'm kind of spitballing here.
Yeah.
Part of the requirement, but like, you guys are open to it, I'm happy to do glass.
Yeah.
You can see right through
No.
it, you know what I mean? And then
Right.
So we're open, is what I'm trying to say, to whatever rail. The reason we picked that specific one was to match what we see around the neighborhood.
Okay.
If we're gonna go modern, we're happy to go modern.
Well, yeah, I mean, getting back to the idea of this being a building addition, and from my perspective, you know, I guess I maybe would have been pickier about this, but a Victorian-esque thing as a new piece of construction, to me, starts to get into a confusion between, you know, contemporary construction and what's historic, and that's something the guidelines typically discourage people from trying to do. So I personally am not opposed to, let's say, 1.5-inch diameter metal pipe tube in lieu of this sort of larger thing. And that could be the same profile for both horizontal and vertical elements, you know, sort of the bottom and posts. I don't know if we want to condition an exact dimension on some of this, but
Yeah.
I'd be fine with a narrower profile, even though it looks more contemporary. I think it's better for these sorts of things to be clearly distinct from the historic elements in some ways.
And the only thing I'd say as far as like adhere to that 1.5 inch, the only thing we'd have to look, I mean, we could definitely go towards that. The only thing will be held to as well that might tie our hands a little bit would just be the top handrail, of course.
Sure.
Having to stay with what the RCO standards are for that handrail, what needs to be in support.
Sure.
Would you guys want to see the railing, or you feel like that you guys would feel comfortable talking about or describing it? Just want to make sure.
Yeah, and I mean, if we're gonna condition it, I'm curious to know from staff's perspective what what is workable in the sort of staff approval world.
Yeah, so if we have, a good specific idea in mind of what the commission be appropriate, fine with sending that to staff. Otherwise, we could do commission subcommittee if there's a couple of different ideas that the commission could entertain. And I'd recommend that if there are a few ideas, that way we're making sure it's staying within the spirit of what the commission has approved.
I mean, my gut is to not overthink it. I agree with the comment of seeing if we can reduce that size down a bit. I think that makes perfect sense, particularly those posts are just kind of beefy. And I appreciate your approach of trying to adhere to the standards, but I think for all the right reasons. If those can just get a little bit, try to minimize those down as much as you can, but still maintaining the integrity that's needed. If we kind of go with this style, but try to scale it down a bit, I think
I feel
that
would feel good.
probably gives staff the right direction, that we don't need to beat this up too much.
Could we say not more than 3 inches?
Yeah, like a 3x3 or something like that.
Do we want to try to go narrower than that?
I mean, at the end of the day, if they have to stay this beefy to maintain
They
integrity,
do have to keep people from falling off. the
I
thing.
don't know. I don't know that I have an issue with that.
Okay.
Sure. Awesome. All right. Is there any concern? Well, I mean, I think Zach brought up a good point just in terms of the rear. I understand the maintenance item, so really appreciate the dialogue there. I just don't want to just move over. So Zach has some fresh eyes, so I just want to make sure. Is there any thoughts about, pulling that off? Any concern? And just in terms of the overall, the back or the rear condition that Zach pointed out to you.
Yeah, I mean, I still think doing a little bit there. I mean, I would go so far as to say that the front portion, which is, I guess, is the east portion there up front, being the 2 feet back, is the most important. Once we go to that angle, I mean, if that got a little bit closer and it was a little bit more even all the way around, I think that would maybe give you some of that space back, but make that feel a little bit more intentional from the kind of rear view. It's not really a sticking point for me, though. I guess, are there intentions of, do you own all these units, and are there intentions of replicating this on the other units as you go down?
Buildings are already occupied, so. This involves, beating up the roof system,
Mhm.
that we'd have to kind of bring down all of our sets to this.
Okay.
Had we thought about this before, we had paying metrics and all that. Something to consider, but it only works here because it's the only mistake.
Yeah, I guess I just see when you don't have some that could happen, that could be the next thing. And whatever we're doing, I mean, that's the main impact of those other ones. So whatever we set with this one is what's going to be set for the other ones. So I personally, I would give a little on the angle side, just to make that feel a little bit more intentional with the original kind of layout of the building. But again, it's not a sticking point for me.
I mean, that's I think a really important point, that we can look at this. It's okay, it's just a small section, but in the future, this could be a much longer section of rail that we're seeing on that backside. My initial reaction was also to maintain a bit of a setback on that backside.
So, just to be able to, like you said, stay with the what? 2
That's
foot,
it.
2 foot by 2. So
Which if we, let's say realistically, if we set it and laid out pavers correctly, we could probably get it to where we have a 1 foot paver at the end before like that edge to give it a foot setback.
Well, I think that's the reality is that that 2 foot dimension, at some point, it's not going to work out perfectly for you as you start to lay these in and
Especially on the
get that angle. So I think the 2 feet, I mean, I think doing what's right from a constructability standpoint, I think there can be some give there, but, and I don't know that 2 feet is magic. So if it's a foot and a half around the whole thing and just be consistent.
So would you be okay, do you think with that, with what we were showing at 2 foot, if we were to push that, the railing we showed currently with 2 foot setback? Or you think push that like to a foot setback instead of do a foot setback across the?
Just keep it consistent, yeah. I don't know if others have.
I think there could be a benefit from our standpoint as a commission to use this as a chance to set a precedent for future applications that railings ought to be set back from the face of a building, you know,
Similar to the streetscape.
without any context to know what a future application would look like. It at least gives us a sort of possible set of guidelines for how these might be addressed in the future. And having that railing set back further from the edge of a building is inherently going to make it less visible when it's 3 stories up, essentially.
Yep.
So I would be happy to include a condition in some sort of motion that the option 1 setback is pursued on both the, what is that, the east and north sides of the roof perimeter. So.
And do we give them a minimum setback dimension? Is that a foot? Is it?
I mean, option 1 works as 2 feet here and seems reasonable to
leave that
require
facade.
that on both sides.
Okay, got it. Any thoughts? You feel pretty comfortable with the 2 foot kind of dimension that's being thrown out as far as?
We're running into the same thing about the strip board. How do we
Yeah,
use that post?
Yeah. but I'm presuming that the posts themselves, the posts are going to pull back too as well. So, right, as a result of the extent of
The
the,
whole
Yeah,
detail shifts.
everything just kind of pulls back.
So so basically what we'd end up with is if we pull the post back from 2 foot.
Yeah.
And if we still use that post to, because actually realistically, so our gravel fill that we're showing,
That's correct.
that will still also actually be those tile pavers.
That's correct.
So it'll go flat all the way across,
That's correct.
and still gives us that gap below.
That's right.
So if we bring those posts back in 2 foot, we could still do our composite board with those posts instead.
Mhm.
However, it'll be set back in 2 foot.
Yeah.
So you will see where that gap will be discussed about originally, how towards that edge.
Yeah.
Then that'll still be papers there.
Yeah, but I guess what I'm like, for instance, if I'm looking at, and that makes sense from that perspective, but like the gravel that's being shown at the end, that gravel extent will pull back to 2 feet, and you would just have a datum that would be stepped back from the rear of the building, kind of vertically going up the page, and that would be your railing. That would be the extent of your gravel. That'll be extent of your tile tech system. And then that band board would just kind of run along that entire length, right, and die into the existing parapet. Am I right in saying that?
The existing like back parapet.
That's correct.
So we actually, there's not a back parapet wall across that.
No,
I think that's what I'm talking about.
No worries, no worries. So what I'm saying, I guess this is what I'm thinking that Zach mentioning is that right now, currently, we're pulling this back, we're pulling this system back. So this data, when we pull that back, set it back from the existing edge of the home, that line is going to run itself vertically all the way up. That's going to pull itself back to as well. That's tile tech. That's tile tech as a gravel. And then you're going to have one consistent band board that's going to run that entire length. And then these columns are just going to pull themselves back. And then you're going to be able to still attach to it. Am I?
Yeah, if we were gonna put the gravel in front, then
Yeah.
to make basically a gravel band all the way around, then yes, we could do that.
I think that would be the challenge, right? Is like, if you did the gravel and try to pull the gravel around, now the system is outboard and then you have to treat it. So is it more economical and easier for you from a maintenance perspective? If you pull the whole system away, now you have exposed DPDM that you get to easily, you can get to all the gutters and you don't have to worry about the system. if you can handle just visually that exposed EPDM, that seems minimal in that regard. So I think we want to work with you to try to understand what that dimension is, right? But we're trying to think about the constructability, pulling it back, long-term, what happens, giving us visibility for precedents later on, things like that. So,
Yeah, if we just pulled that back and we didn't continue that couple around,
yeah,
and we just made that where that square foot was at, that kind of the issue as far as constructability goes on our end.
okay.
It would just be leaving that UPDM visible at that. I think with our elevation up top, it's probably going to be very minimal to, as you're standing up there to see that UPDM.
Yeah.
I mean, they're gonna do that. Yeah, that's.
And is the gravel filled paver system, is that so that you're locking that system into the parapet? Or is that an aesthetic?
Touch the parapet or the parapet, it's completely separate from the parapet, so we don't attach the parapet or anything like that. All those tile tech paver systems, how they work, is basically you have a bottom and top foot. And then from there you use 2-inch PVC, Schedule 40, and you cut it for what your slope of your roof is to make that floor flat.
Right.
Then the pavers sit on top of those pedestals, and those pedestals, basically pavers lock each pedestal kind of into each other. So it's almost more like a floating floor up on top of that roof at that point. So completely separate from the parapet, doesn't impact, doesn't touch it, doesn't get affixed to or anything along those lines. And that's also where kind of the general maintenance of that rooftop idea comes from as well with those, so that you can easily remove them.
Right.
Get to it. And that's also a lot of commercial buildings, they use that same system. So that they can still get access to any of those mechanicals that are possibly on that rooftop later on, especially if they have like, say, a rooftop pool or something like that, they'll use those around there. So they can get access down below those mechanicals and so forth later on.
Right, I guess my question is more like, personally, I don't know that you need the gravel infill there unless it's an aesthetic thing that you're looking for from.
Side.
Okay.
Just so you don't see just a drop off on the side. It looks much more finished up top there at that point, but now a little bit of. And instead of, I decided to use that gravel paint instead of using the regular like slate pavers, because that kind of gives us that differentiate that border line on the other side of the railing itself.
Anything else, Sam? I think that satisfies, but yes, sir.
Yeah,
Go ahead, yes,
and
sir.
so
I'm sorry.
I'm still trying to get comfortable with the
Yeah,
doghouse, so.
for sure. For sure.
And I don't want to prolong things, so.
No.
Um,
Agreed. I don't want to push it either.
Yeah,
So
no,
I think
well,
we
so
want to make sure.
I'm gonna throw something out there, and
Yeah.
John, I trust you enough to kind of give you unilateral control to cut this off if you want. So, but I want to throw this out there as a something that a consideration to consider. Yeah, there you go.
All right.
Thank
No
you.
worries, but let's go.
When I was looking around the neighborhood at what was done for flat roofs when people are putting patios on, mostly new construction, but when this type of thing was done, the doghouse style didn't appear because what was done was a little mini floor or a little mini story, right? This doghouse would be a square box. And on a building like this, if you wanted to have each of these roof units have terraces, it would have little mini boxes across the tops of the buildings. And I'm wondering if it's counterintuitive because we're trying to hide the thing, right? And so we're saying slice off the corner. Would it look better and more finished to have a square structure where you can do a complete roof finish with an awning or something, and instead of this thing where it looks clipped on all corners and it just doesn't quite look right? Just throwing it out there.
Yeah, I mean, I had similar thoughts yeah, I mean, it actually isn't a box. It's a slope that is very clearly the slope of a stair.
Right.
And I know that helps minimize from the front the ability to see that. But when you do see it, you see that it is the path of a stairway as opposed to an element that is just on that flat roof that feels a little bit more cohesive with, kind of the building or a design element. We're driven by the shape of that, and what that is being driven by the exact stair that's underneath it, as opposed to thinking about it aesthetically of what is a nice element that could be on top of this. And again, I would go in the realm of, you're not trying to make it look like it is part of the existing building. You're saying, this is a new thing we've added along with this rail. It's not original, but this is the thing that's here, and it's more than just a doghouse. It's a design element.
Well, it's going back to Kevin's commentary of this being an addition.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, it is what it is. I've had the same thoughts.
Okay.
Cycle
Like
in and
them.
out. I
Didn't want to be the only guy.
I think I have come back to, in this case, minimizing that as much as possible. There is a precedent down the street. There's some consistency there. If this were to come in a different location, I might feel the other direction on it. And I think that's okay, being site specific.
What if they come back tomorrow and want the next unit over? Right? That's or the next 2 units, right? That's what I'm.
Well, and those units need to match.
Right. So then we'd have the clip dog houses for whatever, however many on this building, right?
I mean, this is one small little addition on a very long set of buildings, and I just think it needs to be as least visible as possible, especially from the street facade.
Does it make
It
it
seems
less
like
visible?
it's demonstrated enough that it is really, with the evidence we have in front of us, that it's not particularly visible when viewed from the street.
Yeah.
Most likely given its sloped top. If that went up, orthogonally from the header of the door towards the front facade, it would definitely become more visible in my opinion. I'm not opposed to rectilinear, boxy penthouses in some unknown future application, but I think this is the right thing for this application, for this build.
I know you pointed to me, Reed, so I would,
Yeah,
I would agree. I would agree. I think that, trying to be as sensitive as we can, obviously from that perspective, and trying to make sure that we have a consistent narrative, I think is really important. But I think to Kevin's point is just the nature of this and trying to make sure constructability, survivability of existing, and then being as sensitive as possible in terms of, I would be nervous without further study to understand that we're going to have more visibility to something, right? So later on down the road, if this kind of cascades and kind of continues, and maybe there's a moment that we come back, but I don't know. I only can just react to the current applications.
Yeah, I'm not suggesting we approve something that we
No, for
don't
sure.
see. Yeah, no,
For
I
sure.
would say it would have to come back.
For sure, for sure.
But
For sure.
I just want to make sure that that's out. It's been thrown out there now. So not sure what to do with it, but
Yeah.
okay.
But yeah. Okay. Anything else, team, at all? Do we think we have enough? I just want to make sure that, everybody's heard. Obviously, this is a tough application. We knew it was going to be a tough application. So I think we got a few things that we talked about. I think I just didn't understand the clarity of the material, but I think that the application is pretty consistent about that. So materials were there. I think the railing, we kind of got stuck on a little bit, but I think we had the ability of being able to stay in kind, but we're going to try to maybe do what we can do to kind of reduce the posts. To Zach's point, we were going to try to look at maybe 2 feet on the back of pulling the entire system back and not continuing the gravel around as a tile tech system. A little constructability ease and a little bit of Zach's concern to just being able to on that rear facade in terms of visibility. I think those were the kind of things that were talked about. Reed, I want to make sure, am I missing anything, Reed, at all?
No, I mean, I guess the only thing is does the applicant heard the discussion. I didn't even ask you. Do you have any, you heard me about boxing it off. Did you, any interest in that?
I'm sorry.
But then again, what Kevin was saying, so the reason it's at an angle.
Right.
Yeah, that's why I like the section. That's why I'm looking at the section,
It's going to cause you a delay also in another month coming back to hearings. I'm just telling you. So like, I don't want to slow you guys down. Right. So don't,
Aesthetics, I mean, I think
okay.
obviously, you guys, want to see a detail on that or a drawing and just for.
Yeah, I'm not gonna force the issue, but if you guys had an interest in, then
We're just, trying to explore all the options and
Yeah, I suspected that would be the case. So,
Makes sense.
all right.
No, Reed,
I-
I really appreciate it, man.
I
Really,
think the,
that's good.
let's just have a discussion about precedent and just and what's on the street and all that kind of stuff. And
Okay,
I think we can go forward from there.
awesome. So I know, team, I'm gonna ask for someone to take a handle on this one from a motion perspective, try to
Mhm.
hit some of the things that we talked about. And then at the same time, I think to Reed's point and to Jacqueline's point is making sure that we have a little bit of understanding about precedent as it relates contextually, in
Yep.
your motion, if that's okay.
I can take a shot at this one. Motion for COA 25-00778, 28 Buttles Avenue, for approval as submitted with the following conditions. One, that option one for rooftop floor plan is utilized with the 2-foot setback, that setback is maintained as well on the north side, back side of the property without the gravel. That the railing system is character as provided, but all efforts are made to reduce the scale, the size of the, particularly the post and rails of that system. I think those were our conditions, right? And then it's about justification. Is that right?
Yeah, just a little bit
Okay.
about, precedent
So
actually.
the commission recognizes a unique case for the doghouse. Contextually, this application of the doghouse access is utilized on a new build down the street. This property, all efforts have been made to reduce visibility from the street. This property is also close to High Street, to the commercial core, with views looking down on it from the multifamilies nearby, that is a unique condition to this specific site, and should be considered that as we move forward with any other similar applications on their site specificity.
Awesome. Is there a second, team?
I'll second.
Awesome. Is there any further discussion? Anything missed at all? Okay. Jacqueline, do you feel like you've got what you need? Do you feel like you?
Yeah, and then can I confirm, would any revised materials be submitted to staff then?
Yes,
Thank you.
of course. Yeah. For staff review, and are you okay with, from an amendment of your motion to make sure
Yes.
that?
Amendment for the final material for the railing in particular to be provided to staff for final approval.
Are you okay with that amendment, Kevin? Okay. Are you, perfect. Any further discussion, team, at all?
One other amendment.
Yes, sir.
Do we need a building and zoning approval contingency?
Thought that was only contingent
only-
based upon the hatch
That was
condition,
just
if
the
I
hatch.
remember
That's
correctly.
just for the hatch?
That's correct.
Was that the concern?
Yeah, it's just to make sure that, railing and all that is going to be meeting building and zoning requirements, but they wouldn't, the applicant would need to get a permit anyway, so.
For sure. Further discussion at all? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passed. Thank you, gentlemen. Really appreciate it, guys. Really appreciate it. Not an easy one, so thank you.
Okay, the next application is 235 West First Avenue. We might not have an applicant for this one with the staff change. This was continued at the last hearing, so we just want to make sure that if the applicant wanted to continue, they could. So, no impact to applicant if they're not able to make it for this one. Sounds good. Okay, so moving on to number 5 on the agenda. This is 1219 Highland Street. Thank you. Okay, this is for COA 2501055. And I'll bring up the application materials. All right. So this is exterior building alterations. It's like, oh, sorry, I was reading number 4. All right, still exterior building alterations, but the proposal is to replace existing standing seam metal roof on the front-facing porch with new asphalt shingles, and that would be a shingle from the approved roofing shingles list, and then to install new 1x3 tongue and groove over the existing wood ceiling and soffit. So this property includes a late 19th century residence with a single-story full-width front porch. The building exhibits a mix of materials, including a formerly slate asphalt shingle main roof, a prominent shingle-clad gable with shingles emphasized by curving into the recessed window, brick main walls, and rusticated block porch columns and baluster. The current porch roofing includes standing seam metal roofing and is in deteriorated condition. The guidelines note that many porch roofs with low to nearly no pitch often had metal roofing in Victorian Village, so the metal roofing is consistent with the low pitch of the porch roof. Standing seam metal roofing is confirmed to have been in place for the porch of this property in a 1950s photo, and that comes from the MLS 1959 MLS photo from the Columbus Library. And I'll scroll down to that here. Sanborn maps indicate non-combustible roofing. Non-combustible roofing may include slate or metal roofing, and it's not differentiated on Sanborn maps, so not a whole lot of help for us there. But replacement of the porch roofing with new standing seam to match could be supported based on pictorial and physical evidence. The commission will need to discuss if slate was the original porch roofing and the proposed porch roofing, which would be the shingle from the approved list, could be supported. And if I get, here we go. Okay, here's the old photo. So the porch ceiling itself appears to be in good condition, so staff would recommend either repairing that ceiling or installing the appropriate ceiling over the existing to allow for future restoration of the porch ceiling, which is currently proposed. And we note that if a new ceiling is installed, we recommend the molding detail around the perimeter be removed and reinstalled to avoid that molding detail being covered over. So staff recommends approval of application COA 2501055 at 1219 Highland Street with any and all clarifications to be submitted to HBO staff for review prior to issuance of the certificate with the following conditions. And that is that the replacement porch roofing matches the existing standing seam metal, and that the porch ceiling is repaired, or if new porch ceiling is installed over the existing, that the molding detail around the perimeter of the ceiling be removed and reinstalled. The basis for the staff recommendation is the City Code 3116.11 standards for alteration, specifically numbers 4, 6, 11, and 12, and then the Victorian Village guidelines regarding roofing materials. Thank you.
State your name, sir, and get you sworn in. Perfect. Do you agree to tell the truth and nothing but the truth? Thank you. Any thoughts about the application or just kind of giving us a little bit of context there?
So, to my understanding, there was two main things. Is are we able to change that roof to asphalt, or do we have to go to metal? If we were to go with a nickel gray shingle that was on that approved list, we would, anytime we have a lower pitch roof like below a 312, we would ice and water the whole thing, inspect the roof decking, replace planks, place any of that with the same material there as needed. And then the second part was that I had seen down the street, I don't want to tell on anybody, but I had seen a more up to date metal soffit, so I had submitted it with like an aluminum soffit material as replacement. And, obviously, that's not code or not within what you guys would like in Victorian Village. So, so I contacted distributors, made sure that our install crew was comfortable installing like for like material for soffit. So those were the two main things: the roof material and the soffit material.
Awesome. Thank you, sir. Really appreciate it. Okay. Thoughts team, just maybe take the first one. This is easier, is just kind of the latter, which is maybe the soffits in the ceiling. Makes sense like for like. Any crown molding that is more decorative and trim that would be just replaced, and that seemed like that makes sense, right?
Yes.
Okay. And take the second one, which is maybe the roof material. Just any thoughts on the roofing material?
Well, I mean, Jacqueline had asked us to talk about if there, I suppose, really the hypothetical is if someone was able to, the applicant was to find some evidence of a slate roof being present in the original construction, would it be appropriate to use shingles? Right, Jacqueline? Like someone would have to find pictures or go under this existing roof and find slate. It's maybe the thing you posed to us.
Ideally, so that's, what typically our code says that if you're going to replace, try to find evidence that what was there is going to be replaced. Now, it is possible there are other roofs, porch roofs in Victorian Village that were originally slate, and then those we would support replacing with the shingle from the approved list. What is kind of throwing us here is because the existing roofing is the metal roofing, and that is not uncommon for Victorian Village, as the guidelines note for porch roofing specifically. And then also there's that photo. So right now the evidence that we have seems to indicate that it's metal, but the commission can discuss because it could be possible. That photo is 1959. Perhaps there's an older photo out there or something that would indicate that it could have been slate.
This case with a standing seam metal roof is going to what's on the port. Don't understand an argument for using shingles in place of the standing seam material, just because it's clearly had a historically long enough life that it's covered under the code and guidelines as historic materials. So from my perspective, I think standing seam metal roof is the appropriate roofing in this situation.
Any other thoughts?
Agree.
To get that makes sense. Yeah. Okay. Awesome. Thoughts about, it seems like, I think you've clarified as far as the replacement of the ceiling and the soffits in kind with wood. And I think with it that everyone is kind of mentioning is that the roofing material itself would kind of go back in kind. Is there any concern as it relates to the standing seam?
Simply that, and I'm sure there's a document somewhere with approved colors list for which metal color.
No.
No. I think that would be the thing is that typically there has been some recent kind of reviews as it relates to standing seam and some thoughts on color and such as it relates to.
I think it's red or
building.
gray is probably your best bet option.
Yeah, and I think that, so we would have to look at the product data to try to understand that. If I remember correctly, I'm just kind of thinking, I think it was not necessarily green as in terms of copper, but it was the aging of copper
Right.
that would give you a bronze feel, and a bronze was acceptable, right? So if we were looking at putting in a copper roof, that copper roof has a kind of a transition that you don't necessarily have to go to green, and you shouldn't be at red, right? So a bronze being able to hit that moment, I think is kind of where we landed, if I remember correctly.
But you can do actual copper.
But you could do actual copper
That's
as
an
well.
option, right? Yeah.
So
But like the tinner's red was an acceptable one
Yeah.
too, right?
Well, and I think we also talked a lot about different grays.
yeah, we
Yeah.
did also add some grays. That's
Right,
correct.
And I
That's
know
correct.
that
That's
gray
right.
is the most common color for any roof in the neighborhood. Most types of roofs are gray, whether they're asphalt, shingles, slate,
Yeah.
or metal.
Yeah.
So
It
if
was
we
the-
wanted to maybe condition our review of this application based on a metal roof being of, certain colors, I would be in support of that.
Makes sense.
Yeah, it was the hunter green that was the no-no.
That's right.
So, I mean, I think staff could approve the color. If that.
Yeah, so I'm hearing grays, tinner's red, or the bronzy color, which I do recall having been approved for a past application.
With that though. Okay. Yes. Would you feel comfortable with that if the motion basically represented that you would work with staff on finalizing the color and that product data, and that would just prevent you from having to come back?
Absolutely.
Is that okay? And then in the motion, we'll basically represent, the in kind for the soffits and the ceiling. Okay, awesome. I think that's pretty easy then. Is there a motion team at all?
Sure, I'll do this one.
Cool.
Motion on application COA 2501055 for 1219 Highland Street to approve the application as submitted with the following clarifications. That the roof will be replaced as a metal standing seam in in kind will be the material. Likewise for the soffits and the porch ceiling will be also replaced in kind with wood. The color of the metal roof is to be approved by, I'm not going to go through the colors, will be submitted to staff for final approval before issuance of a COA.
Awesome.
I think that was.
Yeah. Do you want to say something about the trims, the existing trims, just the retainage of the existing trim?
Oh, right.
Sorry.
The trim work both around the edges of the inside of the porch and any other trim work that may exist around the soffits shall be retained or replaced in exact detail that was there.
Awesome. Thank you. sir.
Period.
Is there a second?
Second?
Awesome. Thank you, team. Appreciate it. Any further discussion at all? All right. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Thank you, sir. Really appreciate it. Thank you. Number six.
Okay, so we're going to number 6 on the agenda, which is 745 North High Street.
The numbering got changed. That's right. Attachments are numbered.
All right, so this is the 745 North High Street is application number COA 2501200. And this is a proposal to remove an existing metal door on the rear or west elevation of a CMU addition. We'll scroll down here so you can get the context photo. Here we go. And then the infill would be an 8 by 8 foot garage door opening, but it would be a wall with a new metal service door and window. The door and window would be painted black, and then siding material is proposed to be 4-inch lapped hardy plank siding, and the color there would be white. So this property includes a 2-story brick commercial storefront and a circa 1950s concrete block rear addition. The addition appears on the 1961 Sanborn map, but is not present on the 1951 Sanborn map. As the addition is potentially contributing being more than 40 years of age, staff recommends retaining the recess of the garage door opening for the new infill to better indicate that original opening. The garage door itself is not historic. So staff recommends approval of application COA 2501200 at 745 North High Street, with any and all clarifications be submitted to HPO staff for review and approval prior to issuance of a certificate, with the following conditions, and that is to retain the recess of the garage door opening, and that any siding infill would be smooth, more specifically avoiding a faux wood grain texture. The basis for the staff recommendation is the City Code 3116.11 standards for alteration, specifically numbers 4, 9, 10, 11, and 12. And with that, I'll hand it over to the commission.
Sworn in? Perfect. Do you agree to the truth and nothing but the truth? Yes, sir. Any thoughts about the application? Okay, and then just while what have you is it seems like staff is just really trying to make sure that we retain the kind of the opening and the spirit of the opening. Recess.
It's gonna be recessed.
Okay, awesome. Perfect. Pretty simple then. All right, thank you. Is there any just team staff thoughts at all, team?
There's a little problem with the siding thing. I mean, I know it's easier just to do wood and siding, but just that kind of this isn't going to look right. What is it? I know it's the back of a building. I know it's an old garage. I know it doesn't really matter all that much, but
Look, the pattern of the masonry has actually been inbuilt.
I saw that as well. Yeah.
On
Well-
intentionally to show, so it's, and you're looking at a building that's, if it's historic because it's old, that's fine, but it's not in its original condition.
And I'm like, I mean, if I would have no problem if you were doing CMU infill.
That would make it hard for us to retain the open.
I agree. I'm not sure. We don't encounter a lot of these because we normally don't allow infill of openings, right? So,
I mean, there was one that I remember, which is more of a gas station condition. And there was a series of bays that were openings. And then those bays, because of the change of use in the interior of how that gas station was servicing the public, they didn't really need those bays anymore. So they turned them into other, and those openings transitioned to being board and batten kind of openings, but that was in context with the adjacent. So, so this has come before us in that regard. But I'm not trying to stray one way or the other. I'm just saying that was the closest that I can remember in terms of context, I guess is what I'm trying
I
to
mean,
say.
maybe it's the siding, like if there's a way, like, I don't know if there's something that's just that's flat, that's, you know, that doesn't make this thing stand out more than it already needs to.
Tried to analyze and it's not very good.
Yeah. Is it just kind of read as what you're seeing it? Do you feel like if they talk about the color a little bit more? Because right now you're seeing a drawing, and then I'm not advocating for anything. I just want to make sure that we are getting the thing that you're seeing out on the table.
Yeah, it's the, I mean, it's
Out
the
on
wood siding. That's the main problem. And well, I mean, there's also kind of the proportionality of it, and there's a casement window, and I mean, there's there's, but
It's gonna be fixed. It's not gonna-
okay.
it's just fairly
I mean,
unfixed.
I don't know that makes the difference necessarily, but
Would it be any better as a double door?
yeah,
Not only a double door, but a double door centered on the opening.
Yeah.
yeah.
It just kind of
Because then you don't need
simplifies that
any.
elevation.
Then yes, that would help. A double door centered on the opening with no siding. That would help a lot. It won't fill the opening.
Well, yeah, but I mean, we do
It
have
would
it.
be more.
It would be more.
But it minimizes the amount of that exposed
Yeah.
siding.
And at that point, what can we use that's just not side? I don't know if it's just hardy, some sort of, yeah, hardy panel.
It's not as flat as their flat side. Texture to it, it's not wood grain.
Right.
I mean, the garage door is currently centered on the back facade of this building, centered within the,
It's
you know,
it's
down sloping.
Yeah. Maybe a foot off or something,
Or
but
something.
It's close.
And what's being proposed is we've got, you know, an element to one side, another element centered in the wall space that's not in the center of the opening. So it is introducing sort of 2 or 3 elements instead of just the one garage door before. It's not symmetrical anymore.
You will still have the opening itself.
Mhm.
It's not gonna be flat frame, that's not going.
For, and the other, I mean,
And it is ramping down to.
I would say the other thing that's unusual is there's a half light door and a, you know, very tall window that seem to not have much of a relationship to each other or the existing building. I think that's one way of articulating what's a little, you know, incompatible with what's there currently.
I think you nailed it a lot better than I did. Thank you.
2 ways of saying it. I do think a double door, centered on the opening would get closer to what's
They're
there.
looking to, right now, because it's an overhead door, it can't function as the egress door.
Mhm.
So they're looking to switch that function out. They do need to potentially take delivery of it, for it still, so that, you know, they don't want to get rid of it. And I think the window is simply to more light, so if we
For
do
sure.
doors that have that lights, I think that would be perfectly fine with that. But it's accomplishing their function.
Yeah.
That's one would probably remain fixed at like 99% of the time, so it's not going to impact how
Mhm.
it's operating on the inside of the building.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Would fiber cement board panel, like we were talking about before, seemed similar to the panels of the existing garage, make that feel a little bit better? I mean, you can cut those down. There's trims that, horizontal trims you could do at that area, so you infill that. And rather than a 4-inch lap or whatever it is now, you have 1, 2, 3, 4, you have 5 panels.
What minus the frame.
It's gonna be by the time it gets trimmed out, but
Yeah, but if you mimic the old panels of the garage door to as those things, that's not
Yeah,
not a
I
bad idea.
To me, the type of siding that's being used is not particularly problematic. And I'm fine with other fiber cement siding types in the same approach. So I think we can be flexible. I personally think that we could even condition an application to be flexible on the type of siding. It could be any fiber cement siding as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, I just thought the 4-inch lap is what I'm the lap siding is what I'm having the issue with. It just doesn't fit anywhere with the CMU block walls and the kind of commercial nature of it.
Seems like you're headed that way too, Zach. Is that kind of correct?
I'm fine in either direction. I'm just
Okay.
trying to think
Yeah,
of
for sure.
ways to
Mhm.
address that concern.
Okay. And then Tim, any thoughts, Tim, just as far as your
I'm the
on
same way. I can go either way
indifferent? Okay.
on the siding. I think once we
Okay.
normalize that elevation,
Mhm.
kind of get things centered and simplified, the siding, I think there's an argument that it's different because of where it is, that I can go either way on how that flushes out.
And then I think, Reed, to your point, is what's going to happen too is, once the door is installed, there's going to be trim for the siding. And so I think the amount of siding is really
be
going to
reduced,
diminish
yeah.
from that perspective. So I think to the team's point of being able to say it could be either,
Yeah,
you know,
it may not matter.
it may not matter in the end, and maybe giving them that little bit of grace by the time they finalize it, if that's okay, or
Yeah, I mean, I would still not
You still-
prefer it, but
okay.
I'm not ruling anything out till I see it, right? I mean,
I want to make sure.
yeah.
So do you want to just go ahead and just say the smooth in the motion? And because
I
it
would
looks like
prefer the
from an owner's
Well,
perspective.
I think I'd rather see this thing before. I'm not ready to make
Oh.
I think,
I'm sorry.
yeah,
I'm
I don't
I'm
think
sorry.
I'm,
We're time frame that we have a building permit. Like add this too, so
Okay.
it's at the point where it closes out soon.
Hopefully it will close out.
Complete,
Yeah.
they got a complete interior remodel of the coffee shop in the front.
Yeah.
Wanted to tack this onto that.
I was going to propose a subcommittee, but if we, I mean, if we think we can get it in a motion today,
It's something,
can you submit something with
Conditional for staff to approve it.
well,
If you give me the guidelines of what you want to drop, problem on that, I prefer to not wait another month just for an elevation.
so we're talking this door, this exact door times 2 in the center,
The opening.
recessed
This recess room.
with, and if we're saying we can do if we can agree to do smooth siding, fine, yeah, then I can,
Sure.
yeah.
I don't want to.
No, as long as we can,
Sure.
I think, yes, I think we can get there then.
And then just for the applicant's clarification, a subcommittee for commissioners, you wouldn't necessarily have to come back to a hearing. The materials would be sent to the subcommittee that's selected for commissioners. They would have a week to review. They send it back, and if everything looks good to go, we can issue the COA. So instead of staff, let's say, reviewing stuff after the meeting, it's the commission or 2 commissioners, at least for a subcommittee.
If I'm the only holdup, we don't need to.
If they don't change. Saying the smooth is okay, we have submitted.
Yeah.
The doors submitted, it would just be 2 instead of 1.
Right. So I
Draw it.
yeah, no, I think we're good. I mean, in Jacqueline, you'll have to see the materials obviously before it gets to COA anyway. So, I think we're fine.
Awesome. All right. So go ahead and move then. Is there a motion?
I guess
I think
I-
I can. I
Oh,
mean,
yeah, well,
you wanna
go
do it?
be my guest, please.
Really appreciate it.
So motion to approve COA 25-01200 745 North High Street. Approve under the following conditions: to retain the recess of the garage door opening so that new construction is set back from the face of the masonry. To include a 6 foot by 6 foot wide by 7 foot tall, half light steel double door, steel frame and painted black. To omit a fixed wood frame from the submitted application, fixed wood frame window from the submitted application. And that fiber cement siding be smooth without a faux wood grain texture. And that the double door be located in the center of the existing masonry opening.
Awesome.
I think I got it.
You got it.
Mhm.
Was there a second?
Second.
Okay. You got everything you need, Jacqueline?
Yes, I do. Thank you.
Okay, awesome. Any further discussion, team? Perfect. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passed.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Really
you.
appreciate it.
Okay, our next application is going to be 721 North High Street. Just checking, is there anyone here for 721 North High Street? Like I see maybe some people out there. I might go check just in case.
Okay. Jeez. I don't see Melinda here either. So.
Well, yeah, that can move things along. Well, that one will go fast anyway.
Come back to that one if they attend. later.
Okay. So that's number 7.
Yes. Okay, so skipping on ahead, 236 Buttles Avenue is the next application. So all right, so 236 Buttles, this is a conceptual application. The proposal involves demolition and new construction. So the applicant would like to discuss the potential demolition of an existing 4-car garage, and that's in the rear of 236 Buttles, and would also like to propose replacing the garage in a similar footprint with a smaller multi-living unit with garages beneath. The applicant has also included examples from around the neighborhood. So this property includes a 1910s 2-story brick apartment building, and then the single-story 4-car brick garage with some parapet sidewalls. The garage was constructed between 1921 and 1951 per Sanborn mapping. So the commission will need to discuss whether the resource proposed for demolition is a contributing structure in accordance with city code and guidelines. Since this is a conceptual application, the commissioner should offer design feedback that can be utilized by the applicant to further refine the proposal for review at a future meeting. And so no action is required. The basis for the staff recommendation is the City Code 316.14, standards for demolition, as well as the City Code 3116.12, standards for new construction. Thank you.
Sworn in, sir? Perfect. Do you agree to tell the truth and nothing but the truth? Yes, sir. Walk us through the application.
So I wanted to be different ideas on this garage. Some different ideas. Uptown in apartment space and add some type of like decking area off apartments above. It's important to keep the garage in place, possibly do like some type of sill or platform to keep the actual brick garages below, but do the actual apartments above. So just want to get feedback overall. There's a lot of different variations of what they offer right now in that area. Let's see, address this feedback was on.
Awesome. Okay. Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. Any thoughts, team? Just
So clarification on that comment, are you suggesting that there may be a scenario where you're maintaining the historic garage structure and building over top of it, right?
Yes.
Kind of around it, essentially?
Everyone else obviously seems like they're on a time crunch. There's no urgency on our end. This is something just exploring right now because there's a need to have, that front part of the building, the one facing back. We're able to get a really affordable price point. And I see in the alley, smaller affordable apartments are something that's really missing in that area. And being in the alley, I think could justify having a lower price point. I think there's an opportunity there. Open to suggestions and feedback to you guys think.
Got it.
So there's not really a defined approach that we have, which is why it's conceptual. As you can see, my rough drawing, saw that there, just the elementary.
Well, I will say, this is a historic contributing garage and we're a historic preservation group. So I think the path for a building that retains the garage is going to be a lot, more compatible with our city code and guidelines than a project that would propose to completely remove a historic or a contributing structure and then replace it with something bigger or different or, modern. So if it's a simple question of should I keep the garage or should I demolish the garage, I think our group tends to be more in favor of retaining historic material.
I think part of the thing that way is everyone's scraping to go new. It's very expensive. Just like the condos next door. So if we're gonna do that, it's just a matter of what you guys foresee in terms of, do you think it would be acceptable to have 2 stories where you do 2 smaller apartments on each of the 2 floors? And the 4-car garage be acceptable keeping as it is, or would you guys be open to us making it a little bit deeper to where they're taking up things going into the yard partially, and then doing like almost like an outdoor space over that garage too?
I think what you'll find with this garage is if you as you start digging into the structural piece of it, is that you're not gonna be able to touch anything on if you're gonna build over it, it's gonna have to be self-supporting. These garages tended to be 1 width thick brick, and it may not be supporting itself that well these days, which may be to your benefit if you are looking to replace it, if it's not structurally sound anymore. Not that I'm advocating its demolition, because I'm not, but if that's a path you're interested in going down, that's something you would need to do as have a structural engineer come in and look at it and provide the report to us, demonstrating that it's not salvageable, which might be a tough sell. So just keep that in mind as well.
Well, and even conversely, if you're looking at, there's some economy in saving the construction, you may also want to pursue the, professional opinion of what can this thing actually support?
Right.
And will it be as cost effective, right? So, I mean, there's a lot more due diligence to do on that matter.
Because like I said, I don't think it's going to be able to support anything on top of it. I would be very surprised. Exactly. So by the time you got done reinforcing it or whatever, you may not be saving much out of it. In terms of pushing into the property more, I think people have been coming to us with those kinds of desires to maximize their property. I think we've been pushing back more on that because you can only get so much programming out of these properties. So you're talking about just push it. Well, so are you talking about just cars, no overhead structures at all, or just drive through the building and park? I see. Yeah, haven't seen that proposed, I guess.
It's a little different, but I know like in Chicago, some of those areas you see it.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen the garage doors on both sides for, so that you can get access to the yard and stuff. I mean, I guess we'd have to see it. I don't know that we'd be opposed to
Well,
that.
I think, yeah, I mean, it's interesting.
There's a
idea.
zoning problem.
I think if that's true, that would require changing the openings on what we're looking at right now.
Yeah, this thing would fall
I think that would be a hard sell for us.
Depending on the proposal, some other historic commissions have approved additions on a garage. Of course, it varies in the size of the additions, but just wanted to throw that out there if we haven't seen one in
He's
Victorian
talking
before.
about doing a drive-through, but altering historic openings is what you run into, which is more of a problem. So at that point, how much are we retaining of this? So
It's actually kind of reverse of what the previous applicant had, because if you look, there's a door in the window, and they had the garage door, they were trying to get a door to go.
Right.
So that should be the opposite. That's interesting, because you get the
it's an interesting concept. I don't know. That'd be. I guess one falls in the bucket of we'd have to see it, right?
It's intriguing. I think, yeah, I think we would have to see it to be able to really respond. I think probably the clear thing is that for this structure to go away from what we're seeing, we would need a lot of justification of great deterioration of it and quite frankly, a hazard. So I think hopefully that gives you some clarity of anything you do would have to be working with and around that historic structure.
So keep the structure, and if you went above, do you see it being as appropriate to have 2 stories above it that was able to be supported with 2 apartments on each floor? Is that something? If you look at the example on Lundy, go back pictures, that's very similar to what I was looking at.
I just think maybe contextually, it's tough just to try to understand. If you kind of look at that alley is just like another streetscape, right? And so I think we're always looking at compatibility too as well, not necessarily just on the front street, but also just in terms of the scale of those garages and ancillary structures, on the alley itself. So it would be great to, as this massing and as this starts to come about, to not necessarily just look at it in the context of the property, but also just open up a little bit. I think they would help us to try to understand more too of what is that right spot in terms of the right amount of program to balance that back out. So it's, it doesn't necessarily overwhelm the adjacent structures, et cetera. So,
Look at the picture.
Yeah, and they've got it.
Great one. That's the one that.
Yep.
You look at the streetscape, it would be taller. What else is in the alley?
yeah.
Just let me know if I'm getting close. Okay.
Yeah. And just kind of thinking about that, right? So, however, I'm going to say the new structure presents itself, I think is going to just be important in the dialogue too as well. So I think primary retaining the garage and its existing contributing character, and then how do you introduce new program that would be compatible and appropriate for that contextual condition, I think is maybe, just kind of the lens I think that the team is probably going to be looking at.
And relative to the house, the main house as well, right? We typically don't let it get bigger than the main house. Which this looks to be, actually the main house is kind of short and stubby.
It's 2 stories. It's kind of odd because the condos next door and the building next door and a lot of
Mhm.
these go 2 and 3 stories. So that makes sense. So it sounds like at this point, figuring out a way to keep it beneficial, figuring out a way for it to be self-supporting, more or less getting feedback based upon putting something together where you guys can be.
Yeah, I would say based on the main house, I wouldn't try to go for 3 stories. I don't want to take anything off the table because we haven't seen it, right? But I think
It has a good point.
although it's kind of, I don't know, it's weird. It looks like that house gets taller as it goes back.
Yeah, I think it's about scale really on that. I mean, it's not necessarily 2 or 3. It's the scale of it compared to
That's exactly
the front
right.
building and the adjacent buildings. I think though density and affordability are really great goals. I think that, we definitely need that in Columbus. So I applaud that and appreciate, you kind of going after some of that. I echo some of, what you've heard of keeping some of, the contributing elements of this. Potentially there is something that is built inside the footprint of this that you could explore that would give you opportunities for additional density in residential units. I would echo a little bit of what I said before as well of when you're looking at the design and masking of that, you want to be thinking about masking in proportions of openings, solids, to the adjacent buildings and everything, but we're not trying to replicate it, making it clear that what is historic and what is the new thing. So in my mind, not trying to make it look like something old, but make it look like something of today, but respecting the massing, the proportions of what is in the surrounding area and materials.
And I'd also want to mention, if you're going to build on top of this, one of the features of this building is the parapet and the terracotta feature of the parapet. So whatever you would do would need to be shrunk in, which makes it even more difficult to try to build on this because now you can't park your cars on the two outer garages because you need to figure out how to structurally support what I just shrunk in. Because you'd want to build on the outer walls, but I think we would have a problem with that because you're now destroying an architectural feature of that garage. So something to think about as well. If you follow the logic there.
Yeah.
You feel like you have enough to take a stab at it? That's awesome. Awesome.
And if you do proceed forward with coming
Thank
through
you.
with options,
Thank you.
that's always really
Yes.
helpful for us, and not just, hey, it's one, and then we like, no, and it will help move the process
Agree. Thank you.
forward better if we can see iterations that you're comfortable with.
Say, I all on. This is smoothest. Best. You have it. Interactions.
Oh, wow. That's awesome.
Good. Great to hear.
Oh, we appreciate that.
This long. It was probably frustrated. Now, I came conceptually and I was like, you're going to tell me no or yes, but it really helps. And I appreciate you.
No, we
Great.
appreciate it.
We
too.
appreciate
Well,
that.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
I'm 721.
Awesome. 7.
Okay, so we're going back to number 7, which is 721 North High Street, and that's application COA 2501297. So this application was previously heard by the commission. Staff, there has been a request for action, so just a heads up, staff is placed for conceptual. If the commission felt comfortable, you could take action, but we're placing conceptual because the commission had previously requested existing and proposed site plans and then had noted that the architectural elements should not be covered or hidden by the pergola. And so for those reasons, the staff has placed the application currently proposed for conceptual review. The following is from the October 2025 hearing. The commissioners had stated that the proposing attachment to the building was going to continue to be an issue because of the historic architectural details and materials of the building. The architectural elements within the storefront should be visible to the public and should not be covered or hidden by the pergola. The commissioners would recommend that any pergola be freestanding from the building. The commissioners stated that the current rendering did not include railings, which they would assume would need a railing in order to serve alcohol, as it does currently. So the applicant would need to include that information in the proposal, even if the railing work is to be done by a different contractor. The commissioners had asked the applicant to provide a current and proposed site plan of the space since it appears the pergola is extending further into the sidewalk. The commissioners note they discourage any type of screening between the columns of the pergola. The commissioners stated that they can only look at the space for the enhancement and improvement of the streetscape since they are responsible for the preservation of the building. This could also potentially set precedents for future locations and applications, and they'll need to be clear and consistent with their review. So jumping ahead here, HBO staff concurs that the current design is not consistent with the city code and guidelines due to the structure visually covering the architectural features. With this being placed by staff as a conceptual recommendation, the commissioner should offer design feedback that can be utilized by the applicant to further refine the proposal for review at future meetings. So no action is required. The basis for the staff recommendation is the Short North design guidelines regarding awnings and canopies, commercial patios and outdoor dining, the guidelines, Victorian Village guidelines regarding awnings and canopies, and then the City Code 3116.11 standards for alteration, specifically numbers 1, 5, 9, 10, and 12. Thank you.
State name, sir. Get you sworn in. Free to tell the truth and nothing but the truth. Awesome. So I'll turn it over to you, buddy. If there's anything in specific, no worries.
All the way down. That show the, there we go. So whatever you got towards the bottom probably. So that's and stuff that we've modified to try to meet suggestions or feedback from you guys there. So we can do whatever. So, obviously we're trying to provide as many options to kind of get to see
For sure.
if we're in bounds or somewhat in bounds or entirely out of bounds or what, but
Understandable.
I was born and raised in Columbus.
Yes, sir.
So, obviously there's been, historical pretense, compared to now. Obviously, we've made a lot of progress, so I think this is progress, but also having the ability to keep the historical elements. So,
Okay.
and we are, more than willing to do so. But it's going to be an improvement for the business. It's been a long-standing staple to the community, among other locations, which we're working on another one. Different downtown, but this one being obviously right on the ground, I understand the importance of it, but yeah.
Awesome. I mean, just before we kind of get started, and I'm sure we're going to echo it at the end, is this one is not easy, right? We all know that. And I think you guys have been extremely responsive in not necessarily taking our feedback and running, but at least trying to explore. I think we've been pretty consistent as a group of trying to make sure that we are very consistent and giving you the right feedback from iteration to iteration. So I don't think that we're probably going to not be consistent today, but I just wanted to make sure, as your efforts and your team's efforts have been, that those are extremely appreciated of trying to explore it through it. So I just wanted to make sure we started that conversation off that way. And I'm sure we'll echo that again later on. But I just kind of wanted to make sure I just kind of set the stage. So just saying thank you. All right.
And thank you for feedback.
Yeah.
You provide to kind of get us, more from just a rough, the initial renderings and whatnot that we did were, it was pretty rough and didn't have some of the detail that we have, gotten to currently. But I think we're kind of pretty much as far as we can go and get. So, and also the time and effort invested as well. So, you got at some point you got to measure it and decide when to cut your losses. So
Understandable.
yeah.
Understandable. Okay. Feedback.
Yeah,
I just,
so-
open it up. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, I think, so let me start with the obvious question. Is this attached to the building now or not? Okay.
It is presented as freestanding, where you see the additional columns there on the backside. Now, again, we can do it attached to the building, but I know you guys suggested not, so you don't have to attach to the building. The only thing that attaching it to the building does is it, yes, it maybe creates another element in terms of an attachment point, not damaging the existing facade of the building, but, obviously you have the risk of doing that if we were going to attach an awning in that same area, which those, those upper panels at some point, I believe, were prepared for awnings. So the board and batten name I'm trying to if the the panel
Span.
above
Mhm.
above the window.
Yes, sir. Yeah.
The spandrels, yeah.
The black area. So, if there were an awning, that would be covered up. So
So how, because I couldn't tell from the drawing, so how far away from the building is it gonna be? I mean, are we talking?
it's gonna be as close as we can get.
Okay.
Yeah, so we can get a core drill attachment point to and it'll have a mounting, bracket. But so this is actually able to be, removed if you wanted to, and we can remove all the attachments and then it'll be,
Yeah, I mean, well, because I mean, that was a very important point to us, is that it was not going to be attached to the building. And so I just wanted to confirm that because it wasn't entirely clear from the materials. And then,
as it's presented now, we're not attaching.
okay. And then on the if you go up a couple of pages where it's just got kind of yeah, that one there is fine. So this drawing or this rendering and the rendering below it have the upper panels shown. Whereas the other, the other pieces, drawings don't have that. Is there a specific reason that those panels that you want those, or that those are?
We did that too, because I mean, when we were here the first time, it was that, cover up the historical elements of the building, which, I mean, I don't want to detract from the building. I think this is an added, attraction element. I think it's going to dress up the building, to be honest. The owner of the building has approved it, obviously contingent upon you guys, your approval. It's going to make it, but.
Well, because I think that the reason I ask is I think these panels actually make it worse. If there's no reason for these upper panels to be there, all they're doing is hiding the building.
Right.
So
Yes.
when those are not there, you can see through to the building, and with the way that it's been the design now of the has been altered, that back rail now sits below the top of the spandrel. And it is a slatted design because it's got this veins, for the open and close, that you can see through. You could see the finials or whatever is up there in the crown. So, it's about as I don't want to say transparent because that is not the right word. But it's about as unobtrusive as you're going to get. And if you look at if you can go all the way up to the top.
There's another rendering that has without the.
Exactly. That's where I was going to go. If you go, it's like page 1 or 2.
And that was actually, I told them.
The next one down.
Yes, there we go. So I told
This
them
one
to
here.
put it back in there, because when we submitted the file, these were the original renderings that we had done. And I was like, well, I think it best fits what you guys were, saying, as far as, not detracting from the, but again, it all comes down to the context of what you're referring to as and what you want to see and what you don't want to see. Because again, we can do the panels to resemble the name for the facade directly above.
Yeah, we're not trying to replicate anything. That's the thing. We want to see the original. So if we go to page 2, I think, please. And yeah, you can see here, if you kind of look at the left-hand side, where you can see the crown of the original spandrel through the veins of I know this is a rendering, so bear with me. This is not reality, right? But in theory, that you've got the rail of this system, and that you can see through, and you can see the original aspects of the building, and you still see the spandrel of the original building, as long as you're not putting up all this other stuff on this new system, right? I'm trying to
that's fine.
I'm trying to get there, right?
Yeah, no, I think that's helpful.
So as long as you're minimizing everything, I mean, obviously you still have the fencing you'd have to do at the bottom, but as long as you're not putting up this other new spandrel in front of everything, and you're not putting up any other permanent, because I know they want to make it kind of a 4-season, 5-season room, it feels like, but as long as it's somewhat like these blinds really do retract all the way up and all that kind of thing, maybe we're getting somewhere.
Makes sense.
Hopefully that is got my.
That's height. We can go,
No, I think this is the right. I think the height is where we're about as the right place.
So? Yeah.
Well,
We don't want it a little higher so that we're.
so that we
not
cover
blocking-
everything back up.
Well, no, I mean, this one is covering up the top of the spandrel panel and the small little turrets.
Well, no, that's the thing. Is it because you can see through to where the turrets, the finials would be.
There's one that is below the masonry cornice.
tough.
But above the,
That's why I think they found the sweet.
what's the name for that panel above the window?
The spandrel, let's call it.
Yeah, it's the spandrel.
So we can go, see where the dark shadow is currently, all the soot and
Yes.
the pollution and everything? We can go right up to that. So you'd still be able to see, we can go above or we can go below. So it just kind of depends. And that's why we did one rendering showing that if we're trying to show if that spandrel or that, batten
I don't think you
area
want to go over all of that.
being contexted as a historical element, or is it just the crown up there and the little the spindle
Spandrel.
Yeah.
So, because if there, like I said, if there was an awning, obviously the awning would be below that crown and covering up that board and batten. So we did one to show like that you could, if that were an issue. So we don't want that, then we can just do the regular system with the crown or a two-step cornice to resemble the existing crown, like basically identically the crown that is there.
Yeah, I guess I'd
Go
be
ahead.
curious for
Go
any
ahead.
fellow commissioners to also weigh in on the question of
Yeah.
height and those elements. So.
Makes sense. Go ahead. Team, any other thoughts? I know there's a sweet spot of where is the right height. And at the same time, when the right height is there, is it in concert of what we've talked about before in terms of, sense of transparency, being able to, see the existing building elements? Is there a concern, in the right of way? Just the nature of what this thing is that is a little bit unique in the condition. I think that's why we're so sensitive about where is the right location, plus the prominence of this contextual building too as well, and some of these elements that they're trying to dance around. So that's just a little bit of context there.
Here, I appreciate the evolution here and working through options. Maybe to answer the first question, I think this does kind of feel like the right height. However, the right height also goes against this spirit of trying to preserve and maintain the visual of this facade, which is that rhythm of these openings. It's the detailing of the spandrel, it's the finial on top, it's all those elements working together. And it just seems like I know tremendous amount of effort, again, we appreciate it, just seems like every option competes against this historic facade in some way. I do feel like, these solutions with the previous one you shared and this one, I think they're elegant solutions by themselves, but they still, for various reasons, don't quite work here for me. I think I again appreciate what we're trying to accomplish here. I just don't feel like it works in this location.
That's fair. I understand. Zach, I know that you have, I don't mean to put you on the spot from that perspective. I mean, you guys, it's fresh eyes.
Fresh eyes,
You know what I mean?
right.
Just from that perspective. I think we want to take advantage of the fresh eyes. There are some things that we're dealing with that is very unique, right? So outdoor dining, over pergola structure. I think, to this unique property, it's, I think it presents itself uniquely. But I think we're working through this so diligently because we may not necessarily have an applicant that is this due diligence, right? So how do we, hold on, Nick. No, and I'm sorry. And so how do we balance, those kinds of things? Where is this as it relates to the guidelines? How does that, a structure in the right of way and foundations, attachment, all of those things you probably heard in context of the team that we've been really challenged ourselves with. So you don't have to answer any of it, but those are the things that I think we've been challenged as a group trying to get to a comfortable spot on a solution. Nick, is that a fair way? Just at least only I'm saying this in context a little bit more because Zach is new from that perspective. So I don't want to go through we've gone through all these iterations, but am I trying to capture the spirit of, the summary of list of constraints that we've been trying to challenge ourselves with the options that you guys have been trying to solve. Is that a fair summary? Okay, okay.
Yeah, so again, I don't know the context of what was said before, so I'm just gonna
No.
say what I think and,
Yeah, that's
and
okay.
it may agree or disagree with what's been said in the past. I agree completely. It shouldn't attach to the building as long as it's freestanding, can be taken down the next day. Great. I would minimize the overall size of every one of those elements. So as thin and as open as you can. The crown moldings, the additional paneling, all that's not doing anything for me. The thinner and more open it is, the better in my mind. The getting too high at some point when if you get high enough to allow visibility of the facade, it's so high it's not going to do anything for anybody that's underneath it. So I would look at if the top of that is aligning with the top of the windows, or the underside of that is aligning with the top of the spandrel, or the bottom of the spandrel, excuse me. That is allowing for from across the street, you're seeing over top of it, you're seeing those elements. When you're underneath it, those fins, you're able to kind of see up and through it. As long as it's as minimal as it can be, you're not adding these crown moldings and all that kind of stuff. I would be comfortable with it. You're activating the street. You already have, exterior uses out there, so you're just making it a little bit more comfortable and everything for it to be used. So I think it's appropriate for being there. I would just try to keep it as visually minimal as possible. And keeping it a little bit lower is going to be better for the people that are underneath it and allow for visibility over it. And as long as that it is the fins that you're showing where you can open those up and there's visibility, I don't have much of an issue.
Awesome. Thank you, Zach.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, I'll go back to height. I mean, to me, the renderings in the beginning are kind of like right in the middle of the spandrel, right? As best I can tell. We don't have a building elevation, and we don't have we don't have a wall
Hold on, Nick.
section.
Hold on, Nick. Hold on, Nick.
So, but the renderings in the front of the package, I think really are either about like 2/3 of the way up the spandrel, or maybe in the middle. It's tough to tell. I would be interested to see what this looks like if the entire spandrel panel is above a canopy. I think that's more logical, and you could talk about compatibility. I would also be interested to see if a version of this where the horizontal elements are above those turrets and are above the full height of the spandrel panel. I don't think sort of bisecting the spandrel panels with this canopy is appropriate. There is a hint of visibility that you do see through some of these, but it doesn't seem in keeping with code and guidelines to sort of fully interrupt those elements. So I do think building elevations ought to be submitted. I do think a wall section ought to be submitted to show really how these things are aligning, because it's such a critical issue. So
Makes sense.
and I don't think what's submitted here is appropriate. So I think better study of the question of height to the existing elements is necessary.
That's interesting.
If I can touch on the height
Sure.
aspect, technically, the best height would be, this is my opinion, and I've spent plenty of time out there and looking around the city, and whether you got an awning or whatever, but right above the glass, which is where awning would come down and stop. Actually, if it had a little ruffles on it, it would come down probably even a little bit further. So yes, if it gets too high, if we put it up to the dark soot mark underneath the masonry ledge there, then yeah, that would probably be too high, unless we did, which is why we provided the rendering, given if that's because if it's down just above the glass, then we're not covering up the architectural elements that you can otherwise see from far across the street, but you would still be able to see them. And if we put up awnings, you wouldn't be able to see the black area between the cord and batten area, we'll call it, the dead space, because there's actually fins for electrical. So, that was historically for what would have been only visible from underneath the awning, if there were awnings on that building, but they're not. So, it's like, obviously it's, trying to stay true to the historical elements, but also improving the space, the area, and to add a little context to, you know, the owner and the area and having spent plenty of time in the restaurant and up and down the street, Puddles, even, you know, decades ago. On in and out of the apartment building there. It's just going to, it's going to brighten, you know, some of the lighting and stuff like that. But it's also going to add an element of safety to the area, safety to the patrons who are patronizing the restaurant. Because, I mean, a lot of times they're on the street corner, you know. Fortunately, it, you know, attracts a rough crowd, and it's in general, maybe a suggestion for the city, but you know, put some street lights. It's pretty dark over there.
Makes sense. So it's, I mean, and I'm trying to get the temperature in the room, and it's kind of split, right? And so, and which is understandable. And I think there's,
But I do know we do want a, you know, I guess.
Yeah.
If we need to do another iteration as far as height and whatever, you know, again, we can dice this up as however you guys want it. As far as the best height for the functionality of the system, it would be the bottom column, the bottom horizontal column just coming right at the, basically the top of the class.
Yeah.
It sounds like bringing it down to that height and minimizing the massing as much as possible.
Yeah, we don't have to do any of the crown stuff, you know, it can just be, you know, straight columns. We did the crown stuff because, you know, we wanted to dress it up a little bit so that it kind of.
Yeah, that's I think the opposite of what we're going for is trying to make we want to make it disappear.
Right.
Yeah. So Nick, so I feel like, again, I still think that there's some changes here. Obviously, there's an elevation study, there's a section study that's real clear, right? I think supporting those two-dimensional drawings as well as the renderings, I think would be helpful for the next iteration. It seems to me that there's two camps here in terms of height. One is below or one's above, and that's what you guys need to work through. It seems like the team is leaning a little bit more to below, less is more. I think I'm trying to just hear this. I think Zach has a great point, just kind of reiterating just the, you know, again, less is more, relatable to it. Appreciate the understanding of if you cover something, how do you replicate that? So I understand where you guys were headed. Freestanding, all of those kind of elements, I think is pretty clear as far as the next step. But I can't say that when those are resolved, that's the path forward. I just think that that's at least getting us closer to the comments that I'm hearing. I just want to be clear. You know what I mean? So,
I mean, is there any way we can get a contingent upon height approvals, structure, you know, all that stuff? That gets approved in general, in theory, but you know, because again, we've spent a lot of time on this.
and that's why I started at the beginning from my perspective, right? There's been a lot of effort here. We want to acknowledge that effort, but I feel like with this one, I think the effort is relatable to how difficult this is and how sensitive it is, right? So, you know, you guys happen to be in the forefront of just kind of trying to push this boundary. And with that, sometimes being first, there is a little bit of extra effort. But at the same time, the hope is that if it does yield a result, that result is as good as it can be to set a positive precedent, right? So if we would have just pulled the trigger, I don't think anyone would have been happy with the result on you guys' building, nor what precedent that could set. So I can't really kind of look at the effort that's been involved, right? I think we want the best solution if there's one, right? And you guys are really exploring the if there's one. Is that a fair way of saying it?
Yeah, I mean, I guess, I mean, I'm not asking you to take stock of, you know, obviously the time that I don't expect.
No. For sure.
Saying like,
For sure.
you know, in consideration of your guys' time.
For sure.
In consideration of our time, with the number of iterations that we've seen, it's pretty, I mean, this is what it's gonna be.
Right.
It's narrowed down to freestanding.
I think that's where.
We're gonna simplify it now. I mean, I thought previously, I
I,
thought we wanted to dress it up to add some of the crown characteristics, but hey, it's gonna be cheaper not to do this. So,
I was thinking the same thing.
going to be $150 to $200,000 improvement.
For sure.
to The street walk
For sure.
that, we just want to know that if we're, I mean, I don't know. I don't know. I know maybe you can't give me an answer, but I guess I feel like personally, we've narrowed it down to enough details that contingent upon X, Y, and Z, and those items being approved, that overall, we're going to be able to get an approval once those things are taken care of.
Understandable. I'm gonna say it a little bit different though. I feel like today's conversation has narrowed in on the elements that are concerning to be able to gain a vote on whatever the result solution is that you bring forth in that next round. Right. I feel like today pretty consistently, there was consistent feedback that says that that's the best if approval that we can offer, right? What is the best solution that we can explore? And you guys have explored it, and it looks like today's feedback is going to give you that best if for us to be able to judge that it's fulfilling the guidelines. Is that a
Yeah.
okay?
So, yeah.
Is so from today's perspective, since it was conceptual, but then it was not conceptual, do we need to provide a condition or a motion to for continuance or?
You don't have to provide, no, since staff has placed it conceptual, that's fine. And otherwise it would just, the outcome really wouldn't change, but.
Okay, no worries. I just wanted to be sure.
Yeah.
Okay. So do you feel like you have the feedback that you need for that next round?
I think so.
Okay.
The specific things that you guys are taking stock of and requesting are noted, and
That's no worries.
list of those, so.
Yes, sir.
One,
Go ahead.
one thing that I think I've asked maybe for other applicants, since this is going in the right of way, have you explored that with other departments of the city to determine how in favor that department might be for construction in the right of way? So that's quite unusual for our code and guidelines. So if you had, well, I guess the question is, have you explored it?
I'm not sure we have. I'll have to look into that. I do know.
Thank you for bringing that up. No,
When we've dealt with it in the past, obviously, given that the space is already existing, a scenario where it's already approved or whatnot.
Because I
Putting
don't think,
footings in the sidewalk, I think they're gonna wanna know.
well,
Have-
and
have
I would say our, if this reaches a perfect design that we really like, there's quite a bit to go.
We know that once
beyond
we
that.
get the permit and building, we're gonna.
Yeah.
We have all that stuff.
And it would-
all the footings, all the details, all that stuff.
It just might help us when
I
we're
think
really
so.
faced with what the guidelines say you shouldn't be constructing stuff in the right of
Right.
way. But we recognize that there are many other city departments that would weigh in on that. So if there is any preliminary feedback that you could submit to us that says, hey, this is in support of the Department of Traffic, let's say, then it might help us feel like we could support construction in the right of way, even though certain codes and guidelines infer that that's not necessarily appropriate.
Because they are typically discouraging permanent structures like that, that if Forno goes out of business tomorrow and then doesn't remove this, they don't want to get stuck with how the heck am I, the city, gonna have to deal with this thing?
Yeah, we're aware of that. I knew we were gonna be getting to that, but I know there's plenty of other cities, the railings and stuff and other railings on other establishments are more permanent. So yeah, that's definitely something that we'll have to be.
But it would be good to come prepared to the next meeting with
We'll probably look
that.
into that.
Yeah. So Nick, I would just really heighten that. I that's one item that was probably on some old meeting minutes and such. So I think, Kevin's point is just bringing back, I think we want to be as consistent as possible. The hope is that you have everything for that next meeting. So there's no uncertainty. So that way you can get, I'm going to say, a vote that covers the things that you need to cover. So I would just heighten that That is one of the things personally I'm concerned with as the right of way. I think that's kind of something. So if the more answers you can provide, I think the better outcome of us being able to, have an evaluation of all of those aspects versus something out there still that would hang you up. Yeah, it doesn't have to be formal, but at least there's something that understands the temperature in the room of how do you address the right of way? Because that is really the uniqueness of this thing as well. Okay, awesome. Thank you, sir. Really
Thank you.
appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Have a good evening.
yeah.
You
Thank you,
too.
sir.
Okay, our next one, number 9, is 154 Buttles Avenue.
I'm sorry. That's okay.
Okay, this application is number COA 2501294 and is proposing new construction, so an addition. And the applicant's proposing a new one-story rear addition. The addition materials would include shingles from the approved shingles list, Velux skylights, fiber cement or hardy plank siding, and panels, which would be smooth, thin-cut stone veneer to match the stone of the existing foundation, a wrought iron handrail. Windows would be from the approved windows list, so aluminum clad Marvin windows. And then the construction of the addition would include demolition of portions of the first floor rear walls and the associated windows and doors. So this property includes a 2.5-story brick late 19th century residence and rusticated block, single-story 2-car garage. And then this is a conceptual application, so the commissioner should offer design feedback that can be utilized by the applicant to further refine the proposal for review at future meetings. And so no action is required. The basis for the staff recommendation is the City Code 3116.11 standards for alteration, specifically numbers 1, 5, 10, 11, and 12. And then the City Code for standards for new construction, which is 3116.12. Thank you.
State your name, sir, and get you sworn in. Ready to tell the truth and nothing but the truth. Thank you, sir. Just kind of give us a little bit of background and. Yeah.
Extremely. Side is blocked. West side is blocked. So our client's number one goal is. Second goal is kitchen is not kitchen expected. So they want dining area. So that really that's the program. And we're trying to use materials that, particularly on the body, sunroom looks more like a porch. So it's open. By the way, those are not proposed colors. We simply do that to differentiate additions from existing construction. And then the siding is a 3.5-inch exposure so that it has similar to the brick course. Want to get some feedback on foundation materials. Found a thin cut stone veneer that is very close to the existing stone that we're sample in. Come back with this, and see that. And, so that's a little bit about it.
Awesome. All right, perfect. Helpful. Very helpful. Just open the floor and just kind of any thoughts, team, about just, program wise, and maybe just a little bit about the massing and maybe we can get into materiality a little bit later. Is that okay?
Yeah, I guess I'll start. And I don't want to come off. I don't want to come off too negative, Gary, but it felt a little jarring in terms of the kind of how it struck me right off. and I wanted to make sure I wasn't taking it wrong, and I actually showed it to my husband on, on my lunch hour today, and I said, you know, does this look like it could be up on my mom's house in Grove City? And he said yes. It was his response, and he's not has no architectural background, right? And I think that's was kind of it's the suburban kind of feel of it. You know, if you look at the original house, you've got all these very vertical openings, and then everything now suddenly got stretched out to all double hung windows, all smushed together. And then they're offset on one side, you know, off centered. And I get it because how the inside of the house is being laid out with the dining area or the kind of eating kitchen area there. But I'm just a little concerned that it's not in keeping with the rest of the
Windows. Yeah. Mhm.
Mm.
But
Mhm.
because we're trying to maintain a cheaper window, can't really pick it. So that's what it's driving. Yeah, the pitch definitely doesn't.
Yeah,
Mhm.
But at the same time, jarring, depending on the color, maybe a bit strong, but we're trying to contrast it too.
That's fair. And I don't know if a hip roof would be appropriate either. I don't think that there's the height to do that either. To your
Unless we create some well, that roof, but then blocking that window. So that's certainly an option to increase the pitch, but.
and in terms of centering or doing more separated windows in the back or on that main, you know, on the main addition, not the porch necessarily, but or the sunroom area, but something to kind of more in keeping with you know the style of the home. I mean, having double hung windows side by side is pretty uncommon for these houses.
If we're making a porch,
Mhm.
so are you more comfortable if we have upper light and lower light divided by something that looks like a chair rail? So essentially, the amount of glass is the same. We were trying to use bars double hung because
Mhm.
it's characteristic of the house. But if that, the goal is to get light.
Mhm.
So another option, but they would probably be casings. Yeah, lights, something that approximates a chair rail and then a lower light.
Well, I'm talking about the right hands, the kitchen side. Yeah, I'm less concerned about the sunroom side, although not ideal, but it is more. It is a sunroom and it reads like a sunroom. But the kitchen side, you know, if it were a bay, it might be, you know, that I've seen that, you know, it almost reads like a bay window, but it's not, right? And then the fact that it's off center, I think is what's not quite right.
Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah, having three windows on a flat plane like that, it just doesn't. I mean, now that I say a bay would make sense for kind of what I've seen around the neighborhood, but I don't know. I just the rhythm of that just doesn't feel right. Yeah.
Makes sense. Anything else, team? Just kind of any thoughts, just massing wise as it relates to some of the things that Reed is pointing out as far as just the pitch or just transparency versus solid, or just is there any other thoughts along those same lines that would try to help the conversation?
I guess I've got a question for the rest of you guys, maybe,
sure.
is,
Mhm.
you know, in responding kind of to the concerns about the slope of that roof. You know, it doesn't match existing. It's a little foreign out there. I assume, are we vaulted up into that? So the space is utilizing that that shape. And the concern about kind of the window there. How do the rest of the commissioners kind of feel about, I mean, what if you were to go, it's almost kind of harkens back to our doghouse conversation of, does this become a flat roof that raises up and you go up to the underside and it is so clear that it is an addition? We're not kind of trying to be like the building, but not able to get there. It is clearly its own thing. So I mean, I could see that. You still keep the pitch over the sunroom that is reminiscent of the porches, throughout the area. I agree. I think some more study on that facade of the kitchen window and proportions of where it's located or proportions of openings versus solids needs a little bit of study, and maybe that stove needs to find another home or work around a little bit to kind of accommodate that. But, I could see potentially, going a little bit the other direction and just making it clear that this is new and this is something else. I would say from a site plan standpoint, I would definitely think about the porch, the stairs to the porch, and then the stairs going down to the cellar or whatever is below. How those two elements kind of meet. You're coming up the stairs and kind of dying right into the stair that's coming down from the sunroom. So kind of thinking about how that space is feeling. And then I think the last thing I would just have is it looks like the utilities are all coming in on that backside. Would that be relocated to the addition now, or where is that going underground on those? Okay. I said that was my last thing, but it's actually not. In the plan, it looks like we aren't, but you are blowing out some of that first floor window to open it up to that kitchen. Just curious how the rest of the commissioners feel about that.
That was the comment I was going to make too. It's quite a disruption to the existing openings to obviously to achieve what we're trying to achieve here. And I think we shouldn't take that lightly. And I don't know if you have thoughts or commentary on.
Well, options to keep those open when everything counts. So that's something will not have to change in terms of this dimension. We can keep taking place and take more out, at least leave the open. So the sun will change. But potentially we could pull a kitchen out now. That's more square footage. But I realize there's some sensitivity to. But at the same time, the back of that structure, it's not been treated very carefully. There's a huge patch. Well, I realize I can't. But I just really see. So there's this big patch that occurs where there was an earlier, well, it's hidden by, unfortunately, it's hidden by the tree. Photo. Under the one window, none of the windows are original. So change to the back here, it's some modification. So I understand where you're coming
And that's helpful.
Yeah. If this were to go forward, would you see utilizing some of the existing brick to properly patch that discolored brick back in?
if you made that. If I could get the price approved. But the problem when you try to use the existing brick and ask the mason and they take brick. More. So
Yeah.
I'm certainly willing to entertain that as a condition.
Yeah.
I mean, to that point, in terms of maybe pushing farther back, I mean, I was already kind of heading in that direction, not about the openings necessarily, but going with the roof pitch is if we go back one more up, yeah, if you were to shrink that, the extension and so that you're not disrupting that back window, it doesn't look like it would disrupt the kitchen layout that badly. Right, exactly. Yeah, either option, I mean, would be interesting to look at, I think. Yeah.
Any thoughts about the material? You choose to use in cut stone.
Any thoughts, Tim? Is in terms of, I think the idea, Gary, is that you're trying to at least replicate the existing foundation or get close, and it's just challenging.
Yeah.
Okay,
Using a four depth.
for sure. Hmm. I just wanted to be sure that the team understood to ask. That's all. I'm sorry.
Not sure I have super strong opinions. This is the rear of the house. It's not particularly visible from the street. Yeah, if other people have strong opinions, then feel free to speak up. But you mentioned the color of the addition being not that color.
No.
Exciting. I think it would help us to understand the aesthetics of the back area better if it was closer to what the guidelines normally support, which is darker colors.
Yeah.
I think the guidelines specifically say stark white should be avoided. So for the next one, I would certainly take a pass at rendering the preferred color on these views.
Awesome.
And it might also inform the suitability of the stone in some ways. The stone is fairly light, but it's not uncommon for these buildings. Yeah. There's a very small thing in the back of my mind about worrying about a false sense of history, but I think it will be, I think it stands out as an addition in and of itself.
For sure.
So I'm
Yeah.
not that worried about it.
Cool. Gary, I keep drawing on here, man, trying to think about how you balance this. And I feel like it's one piece. I feel like it's one thing versus two things. So right now, it seems like it's one slope. And I think to Zach's point is like, what is that roof pitch? So right now, I'm going to say, is the porch conditions pitched too strongly? And then if that's lesser pitched, and then that is a continuous pitch across the entire back, then how do you take and maybe unify some of this, the disproportion of the placement of the window as it relates to what Reed is looking at? So Reed is looking, right, and even maybe without, I'm just going to say maybe just compositionally without addressing the plan just yet. But I think Reed's point is he's looking at the location of the fenestration within a gable that is centered, right? And so how do you recenter everything is maybe take and unify everything. And now it's about maybe the opening on the right-hand side corresponding to the fenestrations from the second floor. And then now you have a bank of fenestrations on the left that corresponds to the sunroom. But it also, if you look at the massing of the existing home, there's two elements that they're responding to, but within one unified form or composition at the base, right? So it feels like it's kind of a porch, it's kind of an addition, but it's one item. And there may be a little bit of push and pull, but then I feel like you probably could get to maybe an 8-foot window that would give you a transom, that would give you a transom over a door, that would give you a transom over the sunroom, and then maybe I'm going to say a double hung that may not be double hung sweet spot in the middle. It may be a double hung where the rail is dropped. And that may give you the things that you can start to align things horizontally and vertically. Just an idea. I keep trying to resolve reads, and I'm really thinking about what Zach is asking for. And it looks like an addition, but it may look like one thing versus two. I'm spitballing. So materiality doesn't bother me from that perspective. I think detailing wise, I think to Reed's point is like there's sometimes where you have that you're boxing out the rake and you're boxing out the soffit and it feels like you're squaring it off and it drops. And then sometimes it's not. So, yeah, and I know, and I know you will get there. You do great work. So it's not that, but I think some of the things that he's maybe responding to, maybe some of just those things. And so instead of those things being distracting for the conversation, I'm just trying to give Reed the confidence that those things will evolve, but that's what he's seeing. You know what I mean? So for sure. Oh yeah, for sure. For sure.
But you're two slightly different things, maybe both are acceptable. One comment is one continuous, one flat roof across everything. That's what I'm inferring.
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
Then the other question was, we can make it steep. So if we make that roof steeper on the right side, there's no way we can match the slope right on the left.
Mhm.
So if we do have two different slopes, but we find other ways to establish continuity, is that?
Completely. I just feel like there's a horizontal datum that runs across this that maybe end up being the soffit line. But I think it runs across the entire length of the building, whether it steps up or whether it stays the same. But I think they're pitched towards the rear of the home, right? So it's pitched towards us and not necessarily creating a gable. Because I think that's where you start to impact the other window up on the second floor, which I think is the sensitivity to that is kind of that's kind of how you got to this pitch, right? So, but I'm not driving it by no means. I think that with the feedback, there is a solution to solve some of the things that we're seeing now.
I mean, that's like if you're thinking like if you did like a hip roof option, that there's maybe like
Or just a shed.
Or a
roof.
whole shed roof
It's a
for the
shed
whole
roof
thing.
right to it, but it's all one element. I mean, I really like the idea of it
Yeah.
reading as one element.
You think there's enough height or enough to like,
I think that's where Gary has to play
You
with
get-
those proportions.
you'd have to-
and-
you'd-
yeah.
right? It'd be pretty shallow. Yeah,
So
right.
we couldn't put, so the slopes would have to be significant, or we come up to a flat spot.
Yeah.
If you're
That's-
okay with
Okay,
that.
yeah.
That's the way.
You could balance that out.
That'd
Exactly.
be be interesting to see. Yeah, like
Because then you may end up trying to figure out from an elevation perspective, from the soffit line down, getting the window proportion right.
Yeah. I
And
get
then at the same time, the survivability of the windows become a little bit secondary because you are able to flatten that back off. I mean, there's a lot of options here for sure. I think you're headed down the right direction.
but you think one versus two, or
I just don't know. Again, I don't want to solve any of this. I think we're just trying to give Gary options. And I guess what I was trying to do is more respond to the feedback that the team is seeing. That's all.
Well, I would say too, the hip roof on the main house, the main roof, I mean, the building elevation sort of speaks to it. The edge of it is all one consistent elevation. And so the south elevations on the screen up here, where you have now the gable kind of
on the
poking
back,
up on the back.
but on the front, there's a big deal.
Yeah.
No, gotcha.
Right, but I mean,
There's
it's like,
Yeah.
looking at this, at the middle elevation of the screen, the gable does seem somewhat foreign when you consider the bottom of the hip roof and the fact that there's also that horizontal coming across the sunroom, so.
I mean, that kitchen doesn't extend that much beyond the sunroom that, I mean, if you pull the slope of your sunroom roof out to the edge of the kitchen, I don't think you're getting that low. I don't know what the slope is, but there may be opportunities to lessen that a little bit.
Would be lower pitch.
Got it. Okay.
Spot.
Yeah, for sure. Okay.
You can take that.
And again, I think you're just gonna the unified one element balancing the windows out, and hopefully the windows can be balanced out enough that takes care of what Reed is asking for. And then at the same time, I think Zach is, and Kevin and Tim are thinking something that's, a datum. So, but yeah.
I think there's many solutions here.
There are many solutions. And I think that to Tim's point, he always echoes, if there's a few options from a massing perspective, we know where you're headed in terms of the detail. I don't think we're going to get hung up on that. I think it's just getting the massing and the fenestrations correct in terms of proportion. We know what you're capable of doing from that perspective. So, okay.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Thank you, Gary.
Okay, our next application is 100 West 4th Avenue.
Things. She was watching all. Howdy.
Okay, this application is number COA 25-01293. The proposed work is for demolition and exterior alterations. And that would be lower level window lintel replacement and door threshold repairs of original 1925 building. The work for that has been completed. And so that would also involve replacing the red tinted mortar with new mortar. The proposal is also to replace 7 sets of exterior doors on the building and hardware per the submitted application materials. And then removal of the chimney on the 1925 building and installation of a metal cap. So some work there has been completed. Cleaning and repainting cornice moldings and soffits at the north building addition. Masonry tuck pointing, including minor masonry, concrete patching and cleaning, and then replacement of window lintels and window and door frame caulking. So staff has placed this application for conceptual review. The applicant did submit it for action. So if the commission is comfortable, they can make a motion for action. Otherwise, staff has placed this for conceptual review to allow the applicant time to include a proposal to address the unapproved work that has taken place, including partial demolition of a historic chimney and removal and reinstallation of lintels with new mortar. So an application was conceptually reviewed at the May 2025 Victorian Village Commission hearing. The commission noted at the May hearing that they believe the chimney was likely historic. Unapproved work has since taken place, including that partial demolition of the chimney without a COA or building permit. Steel lintels were removed and reinstalled with new mortar. A code violation was issued in September. The applicant had submitted a letter in June, and so that was submitted to the closed out conceptual application. So staff contacted the applicant on September to let them know that, and then a new application would need to be submitted, and that has been submitted. And so the Effort Junior High School, so this is the subject property, opened around 1924, 1925, and then received an updated Greek Revival style entrance by architect Howard D. Dwight Smith in 1929. Photo documentation confirms the chimney was present by the 1920s, and so likely part of the original design of the building or installed very early in the building's history. Here. And so it may have acquired significance in its own right over time, as noted in the commission's May feedback. As part of the 1920s design and workmanship of the historic building, the chimney is a distinguishing characteristic of the historic building, having retained its original height and design prior to the unapproved work. It is the conclusion of the City Historic Preservation Office that the chimney is a historic character defining feature based on the photo documentation. The partial demolition of the chimney and mortar and the mortar that has been used for the lintels does not meet Columbus City Code 311611 or the Victorian Village Guidelines. In accordance with the City Code standards for alteration and the guidelines, City staff recommends that the historic chimney be rebuilt to match the prior historic height and design, and the Commission may also discuss other remedies to the removal or alteration based on that same City Code. For regarding the tuck pointing and mortar work, staff recommends matching the original red tinted mortar in strength, joint profile, texture, and color. The replacement mortar appears to cover the faces of several of the bricks with voids visible between some of the bricks and a different color mortar than the original red tinted mortar. And the commission will also need to discuss the proposal for replacement of the doors. Since it has been placed as a conceptual application, the staff recommendation is that the commission offer design feedback that can be utilized by the applicant to further refine the proposal for review at a future meeting. The staff recommendation basis is the City Code 3116.11, standards for alteration, specifically numbers 1, 2, 4, 5, 6, 11, and 12, and then the guidelines regarding exterior masonry and chimneys. Thank you.
Sworn in. All agree to tell the truth and nothing but the truth. Just, I know there's a couple things, obviously, a lot of things, right? So but doors, chimney, tuck pointing, masonry lintels, things like that. So if we can just maybe just break them down piece by piece, that'd be helpful for us and just kind of lead us through it. That'd be awesome. Okay.
To start with there was a note about painting the cornice, and that's on the 1902 part. That may have been in the conceptual application in May. It's not in the application that I submitted.
Okay, so that been removed.
Take that one.
Okay,
Easy
that-
one.
that's an easy one. Perfect, okay.
If we could talk about the doors next, because that's probably the most urgent one because it is the same concern.
Okay, awesome.
So this little bit of background in addition what Jacqueline said. So what you see with this building, none of it is actually the original building. The original building was an 1890s building. Everything that you see now is an addition. The original building was torn down to build the 1925 addition. So this is really a hodgepodge of things. There are multiple brick colors, there are multiple mortar colors, multiple roofing types. It's an interesting building. It has lots of floor levels and things. So the school district is really just trying to keep the building safe. You've heard the school board may be deciding to close it completely, but in the meantime, they're trying to keep it safe for the students that are going to remain in it. So starting with that are the doors. There are places where there are still wood doors, as you can imagine. You know, a wood door in a house can see a lot of wear and tear. A wood door on an elementary school that opens 1,000 times or so daily. Years of door harbor replacement has really taken a toll on these doors. The doors have been altered so many times. There is not a strong enough piece of wood left to put new hardware on and have it functional and reliable. So the problem the school is seeing is the doors will open and close, but they aren't latching anymore. Unfortunately, because they've been patched and cut so many times, they're just not going to. And the schools are now kept locked, so them not latching securely is a big security issue. And that's the wood doors. The other doors are fairly flat, simple doors that were part of the 60s or 70s editions. Are painted. Those are proposed to be replaced pretty much exactly in kind of match what's there. So, but again, they've seen a lot of door hardware changes over the years. They're not functioning properly anymore. They probably suffered from deferred maintenance over the years as well. So the district's just trying to fix those doors and get the building secure for the students inside.
So, Melinda, I don't mean to interrupt you, just to try to help us though. There's a variety of different door types, right? So,
The building has multiple types.
for sure. So are you thinking, is the proposed solution one door type that goes in all these openings, or are you, okay, can you?
So there's a page for each different door and door type. So the doors that are being proposed are to match the door that's there.
Got it. Okay.
The
Right.
only difference is they will all be steel doors. We're not trying to put wood doors in the school because a modern wood door is just not going to hold up to that slightly.
Gotcha. Very helpful.
Well, so I got to push back on that, right? I mean, you're very familiar with the guidelines.
Residential doors have to be wood. They do not say that for commercial or school property.
Well, because it doesn't say anything about school properties.
But even commercial, it doesn't say wood.
Very helpful. Okay.
Fair enough.
So materiality still, right now, currently, the composition of the doors would respond to the current composition. It's just a materiality change. Okay.
Well,
And
so
the openings would remain the same.
Well,
Right, go ahead.
so
Let's
let's take
finish.
these A1 doors as an example. When we're talking, it says that they're scheduled to be replaced by a pair of steel style doors with half lights. So, with the same exact configuration of the paneling.
We install that decorative wood.
Right, I did see that. Okay. Okay,
The goal is to get it as close as possible, but
For sure.
right. I understand.
And I that's why I just wanted to make sure we talk that through. I think that's going to be the thing that everyone's probably going to respond to is materiality and composition. And so while that picture was up, it was a great picture just to try to illustrate the variation. So go ahead.
Pushing back again.
Yeah,
Not,
this is good, Reed.
because I'm not going to let it all go that quickly. For some of the doors that are used less frequently, right? Let's use maybe some of the auditorium exits, those types of things that are wood doors now, right? Where we say, well, the doors won't hold up. They are used less frequently and they probably would hold up because, they for that reason. I know they are more expensive, that type of thing, but trying to stay with materiality, even though the guidelines may not explicitly say so, is that, I mean,
Current warranties and manufacturing standards for doors, unless you have a awning for a door this height that's about 5 feet, they will not warranty the door, and it will rot out within a year or two. Because it doesn't have a protective on. The wood's just changed. And the wood you get now is not the wood you were getting in the 20s.
Yeah.
that's a fair answer.
Awesome. So we feel like, I know there's a lot here, guys. I just want to make sure that okay. So doors, is there anything else on doors? I'm kind of, the temperature seems like the doors, I think we're okay in terms of, okay.
And the doors are the big thing. If we could get approval on that tonight, there's the possibility of getting them done over winter break, which is part of the reason we asked for approval on those. It's become an urgent problem.
Okay. Awesome. Okay. You can pick whatever one you want to do. Whatever, chimney, tuck pointing, lintels, whatever you want to do.
Because really the lintels and the repointing there kind of go together because, and this comes down to, I know there was mention of red mortar. There is red mortar on portions of the building, but not necessarily the portions where the lintels are. So when I went out to go take more pictures, including after pictures, it actually took me a little bit to figure out which ones had been replaced. I'm usually pretty picky about mortar replacement and lintel replacement. I agree, I would have liked them to clean it up a little better. I came into this project about a month ago. The school district reached out. But the color actually does match the other mortar in that portion of the building. Yes, there's portions of the building that have red mortar. This portion does not. Maybe it did at one time, I don't know, but because they aren't repointing it 100%. So it does match the mortar in that portion.
Does it match what was removed?
Yes, because they didn't repoint the whole thing. They just repointed where there are lintels or other select areas in that facade. It wasn't.
So when we're looking at the ones above were the previous, and the image below is the new.
Or is that just?
See, there's a lot of mortar missing in those joints. Why they're darker. I mean, I agree the joints are a little wider.
So if there's further replacement, those areas, the lintels will be replaced, the mortar will be in kind of the location in which they are being placed within.
Yes.
Okay, and that's the scope. Okay. And then the current, we're looking at an image that is, there's an existing replacement that has happened, and we're evaluating that, but with the understanding that there's more scope of work that is similar to this that will take place. Okay, so, okay.
It's work, any masonry work in a school has to be done during the summer. You're not grinding joints during a school day. So.
Makes sense. Okay, so that's helpful. But to your point, Zach, does that help you? Just, I'm trying to get my arms around it too.
Yeah, just trying to
that's
understand.
helpful.
At all the locations where it was replaced back with the same color mortar as what was removed.
Yeah. Perfect. Awesome. Okay.
I guess I have a question on this. So, I mean, Jacqueline, to the extent that you're hearing this conversation, is that consistent with like the code violations and things that have been flagged for work already completed? Because I guess I don't understand where the disconnect is. Right.
Yeah, so what we're seeing is a bit of a mismatch as far as the joints. So we just recommend that, and at least these images look like a red tinted mortar here, that better match those existing or the original. And then I just wanted to add, as far as schools, if it gave better comfort for some of the commissioners who had concern about that, there is precedence from other commissions for replacing school doors that are wood with metal just for safety exceptions. I think you're on the right track. While the guidelines don't necessarily specify wood doors, the city code does talk about materiality and specifies it there. However, because of that safety issue for schools in particular with wood doors, replacing them at least as a match with metal doors has been approved by other commissions before, and it's because of that safety exception.
I guess so, yeah. I mean, I guess I understand the chimney being
Mhm.
easily discernible in a code violation that work was performed with no permit. And, you know, I suspect that it may have come from a person with no background in historic preservation. It's very easy to tell that the chimney's been removed without a permit. So I guess there's some, you know, grout, you know, mortar work that's been done that I guess city staff felt was not consistent, but you guys are saying it is consistent with the part of the building that's there. Yeah.
I went out late.
Okay. And I guess given the statement that the work would likely be done when school's not in session, which is for quite some time, maybe more evidence could be submitted to, you know, back up the statement that the work that's been completed in this area was done in 2024, sorry, 2025 without a permit. It's matching aesthetically with this area of the building. It doesn't need to be red tinted for these reasons, and it will be performed in the future. You know, or it doesn't need to be modified in the future, you know, accordingly. I think we just need more clarity and evidence as to why that's the case.
Well, but I mean, it does look like on the image to the right, like the brick above was not tinted, but potentially at the lintels where it was removed, it was.
Right.
The picture on the right side though is one I just.
On the right? Okay.
That's why, like, I had a hard time figuring out exactly which lintel had been replaced.
Yeah.
But it seemed pretty easy, so. Anything else about more amendments?
So I think we're good on that. Doors, lintels.
But
Go
I
ahead.
mean, I do think
Yeah.
more documentation needs.
For
to be
sure.
submitted.
Yeah, and clarification. And I think that makes sense, right? From that perspective, just to try to clean up the awesome. Go ahead.
And maybe a plan too. I mean, like a plan of where the work was
Yeah.
performed. And I don't know if that was submitted. It looked like a lot of that stuff was from the May application.
Yeah.
We have 2 PDFs.
Yeah.
Well, because it was supposed to be all the windows on the first floor, right? No? Okay.
Mainly just the ones in the 1920.
Well, right, I guess that's what I meant. Of the building that was supposed to have them done, it was all of them on on that floor. At least that was the easy way out when we approved whatever we approved way back in the day. Because that was the answer we got.
Well, I don't think we approved it.
I guess we approved a conceptual one because we didn't approve it. That's why we're here with the code violation, right? So, right, thank you. So, to that point, let's confirm which windows and how many were done, and then that's what needs to get cleaned up. So,
And I guess I would also like to know where the red mortar is from your team's perspective.
Yeah.
In
It
clarity.
is definitely hodgepodge brick, stone. And different ones. It's an interesting.
For sure. Okay. Last but not least.
Chimneys. So the chimneys, I agree, are generally considered property or character defining features. This one though is interesting because they really did push it to the middle of the building. And if you look at the rest of the building, it's very much a square, and they tried with as far back as they put it, it almost seems like they were trying to hide it. It is only visible from certain views on the street. Even if you go on Google Street View, because you can go back in time, there is a very narrow window that I could actually see the chimney.
From which street? Because I mean, there's.
you can see it from High Street.
There's like 3 streets.
You can see it from High Street.
Around this property.
So Yeah, if you heard of this.
And that's the side street that kind of dies into Fourth.
Yeah.
Mhm.
See it. So there's also a letter submitted, but I'm not sure made it into the packet from the design team that worked on it previously, regarding why it was, taken down. It had a 25-foot tall crack in it. It was deemed to be an immediate hazard. And so they deemed it needed to be torn down before the start of school. They were concerned about it falling into the building. So that's why it was removed.
And that just wasn't ever communicated to anyone in the city of Columbus.
I agree.
Right. It wasn't, you weren't involved with the project at the time, but that's how it happened, as best as you guys understand.
I have very, I have little sympathy here. I mean, I understand things have to, it came down for whatever reason, but we were very clear about this needing to be maintained. You were here, and we've made people rip off brand new roofs and put roofs back, and I understand the situation the city of Columbus schools are in and everything, but this was very clear about that this chimney needed to be maintained. So somebody's going to be building a new chimney, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, so let me just say this. So you see the difference in who we've asked to help represent the district in Shadow Road City process. We had a pretty stern conversation with our design team. So we asked them to draft a letter, which encapsulates many conversations, many emails, things that I understand now were never communicated back to this commission. And I certainly will take it on the chin and express our regret for allowing that to happen. Didn't try to sugarcoat or cover up anything. So the letter stated very recently that it does recap conversations and events that happened over the course of the summer. As you would expect, I'm going to tell you, my first job is to make sure that we provide free public education to all the students in the city. My second obligation as the director of capital improvements is to make sure that we do that in a safe and effective facility. So when I have a consultant that tells me that we have an imminent risk to our occupants, that we can either evacuate the building or we can bring down a chimney, it was a very easy decision for us. Doesn't make it an easy decision here in this room, but I want to make sure you hear that from me. So that is the only reason why the chimney. It's the most important thing for us that we provide an education to all of the students in this city every day. So here we are now, and I don't exactly know where this leaves us, but I wanted to make sure you get that.
No, and I don't question your decision. You made the right decision in that moment. I want to be clear about that. And how this gets dealt with and who's paying for it down the road and all of that stuff, you know, that's a different discussion. But I think from my perspective, you know, what needs to be done moving forward is pretty clear based on kind of how we got here. But yes, for life safety reasons and things of that nature, you know, whatever has to happen, and those decisions had to have been made. I get that.
So
I
is
respect that.
is it just, I guess, maybe kind of narrowing in, understandable, appreciate that context, really do. Is it fair to say that we just need to define if the team feels as though that the chimney is contributing, and then that's it, right? And then you guys need to resolve, how do we get back the chimney that maybe was removed? Is that just, Melinda, is that what's being proposed, or is there some alternate method, you know, as it relates to this? Or just what do you need from us as it relates to that element? Because that element has a unique history.
Honestly, with the school board's recent moves towards this property, I'm not sure, but, you know, they're struggling with spending right now. They're struggling with trying to keep other buildings open. At least you can probably confirm what, I don't know if this is going to be a priority.
I guess I just wonder what's being proposed in this application.
That's what I'm saying, exactly, like, I think that's a better way of saying it. Got it, okay, that's helpful. At least that's helpful.
Has there been any evaluation? Obviously, there was structural integrity issues to begin with. Is it even possible to rebuild? I mean, have you guys at least gone through that analysis of?
We can certainly talk to this design team and see what they look.
Some of that could be a moot point if it's just, if there's, yeah. Right.
That's the thing, it's a pretty tall slender chimney and it wasn't round either, which
Yeah.
for a chimney this tall to be rectangular, in some ways I'm not shocked that it had a big problem.
Mhm.
I know they've had trouble maintaining some of the other ones.
What are the, have there been inspections on the safety of the structure since the work without the permit was done? Has like the Department of Building and Zoning come out and inspected things to verify extensive safety? What is the school district doing to verify that the work that was done is now safe? That sort of thing. I mean, in terms of approvals, I recognize we're sort of a first step, but certainly there could be more feedback offered from
So,
the safety side of things.
yeah, I mean, that's it.
Doesn't look safe, I agree, but what about things that aren't visible? You know, so on and so forth.
What are the other concerns? Other concerns? Normally, when you're working in the school district projects, you have a very strictly limited scope.
Sure.
Right, make it right, safe. So, I just kind of.
Yeah, I think that's the best I could offer too, so let's see much for that.
All right. So out of the three things, obviously, I think your primary is just trying to really get the doors kind of moving. It seems like I think what I heard temperature wise, I think we feel pretty comfortable there. I think the mortar, I think that there's more clarification, more just observation. And I think it's just really trying to be clear so then that way you guys can move forward. And there's the level of information that needs to be to just kind of wrap that up and you don't have to worry about it anymore, which I think is going to help you guys in general too. And then obviously it helps our side. And then I think we just need to try to get a little bit more clarity on the chimney and just kind of where that stands. I'm hearing some things in the room that may help us, but that is a challenging item. So, but
And just from staff, I do want to just note concern of hearing that it's not a priority because this is an active code violation.
right.
Ultimately, the commission has to rule by the city code and guidelines. And there could be solutions there, but
Yeah.
that's the charge of the commission.
Yeah. So with that though, like I think the whole ideal about it is the spirit of making, some things are more easy remedy than others, right? With this one, we got three things here. The violation is only rooted, honestly, only in the chimney, or is the violation rooted in the mortar as well? Like, where does the violation start and stop? The door work hasn't started, if I'm not mistaken, right? Right. Okay. So I guess what we want to help the team move forward, right? So will the city say, hey, these two things haven't been addressed, so the violation is, only for a period of time. They haven't moved forward in good faith of being able to help resolve. But given this condition, it's not an easy resolve. So what does that look like? Are moving forward with item A, which would be the doors, would be helpful. There could be some who say that item A moving forward is not helpful to resolving the code violations. You understand where I'm going?
Well, and I
but-
also am hearing that the doors present a safety concern.
That's correct.
And I know that this was submitted for action. Staff wanted to keep it conceptual. I'm wondering if we have the ability as a commission to
Yep.
at least provide some action on an item today.
Yes.
If we wish. Okay. So I would be personally, I would be in favor of a vote on the doors as a sort of subpart A to this application.
I would love to as well. I'm trying to satisfy, I'm only asking this question because just because of Jacqueline's note, and I'm just trying to understand what that means without.
But would the mortar and lintels be part of the code violation? And if there is some progress on that, at least that component is
Yeah.
moving forward. And
That's right. So how do we represent that? How do we represent that in the motion? It's not just a continuance, right? That there's things that needs to be done. But how do we represent that gives them the understanding that there is action moving forward? There's just more work to be done to identify resolution.
Continuation of, say, part B.
Item B and item C, right?
And there is the feedback from the conceptual review of the other components
Yeah.
that code enforcement would have.
Okay, so that is okay. from a standpoint, from a code enforcement perspective, that there is action moving forward. It's just we can't,
It's not resolved.
it's not resolved yet.
Typically, yeah, I don't want to speak for code enforcement, but often what we see if they see, this, and they'll often ask about, checking with staff, like, okay, what's the status of this one?
Okay, awesome. Don't make this difficult, guys. I was just trying to understand from that perspective. So,
Great.
item A, is there a motion in terms of item A based upon what we heard today on the
I
doors?
think I could probably get there.
Okay.
It is what we started on, but let me see if I can get that. So I guess what it would sound like would be a motion to approve, one portion, right? How we do this? We split it
Item
into
A.
subparts. Yeah.
Item A for the doors.
of, 4 doors for COA 25-012 93 100 West 4th Avenue, to replace existing doors so that the size, profile, paneling, and glazing characteristics of the existing doors are maintained in replacement with new painted steel doors.
Awesome. Awesome. Could you say something about security?
Given a heightened need for security in a unique building, a school building, with a ongoing concern about security and safety.
Awesome. Thank you, sir.
Some more, and that the transom on door A1 will be maintained.
Yes, transom on door A1 will be maintained.
Awesome. Is there a second, team?
Second.
Is there anything that we're missing as it relates to that? The doors? Okay. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, so item A approved. The balance of that, which is going to be, I'm going to say motion B, is going to be the balance, which is further investigation and evaluation of the existing chimney condition, as well as more documentation and evaluation, or I should say clarification about tinted mortar and the replacement of lintels, given the uniqueness of the facility.
Does that need a motion or is it just a
just a-
conceptual and
Oh,
with commentary?
is this conceptual for this piece? I thought that we moved everything to action. So since that piece was in action, do we have to
You
continue?
could do either, but you can just leave the non-part A options as conceptual and
Okay, that's a great point. I thought since we moved the application to, perfect.
Yeah.
So if that's the case, then there's no need for action on item B, the remaining parts of the application. And I was just conceptually trying to get us an understanding of what's needed to take action on the remaining items. Is that a fair way of seeing it, guys? Okay. Do you need anything else from us?
That just means we need to get it in the next, get it more action.
Yes. Yep.
yeah, I want to say the submission deadline, there's an extra week already built into the month, so it might be the 17th. Based 1 week from today or tomorrow.
Wrestling with something in my head. If I didn't share with you, because it's a conundrum that I don't know how to solve. Which is, so our board has given us direction that within 20 months, we should have this building paid. I do not know the future for the building, but that alone would make it challenging for us to make any steps. We're also seeing tremendous pressure. It's not that we don't want to do it, but to work towards carbon neutrality. And so to think about making any kind of capital investment to put back the vestiges of a coal burning system when we'll be pushing towards things like solar and all sorts of other technologies that would help us achieve that goal. So I'm not really expecting a response. I'm just, there is no good answer.
I can share one response, and that is our commission cannot consider cost as a basis for not complying with the guidelines at this time. There are means to which cost can be considered as a hardship, and I'm sure folks can fill you in on that. It's a little bit different than homeowners, but homeowners often say, my wood windows, they have to go, they're drafty, they're leaky. Aluminum clad wood windows with triple pane glass are much more energy efficient, and our commission just does not support those actions for a variety of reasons. So the school district might be more willing to submit their financial information. So I'm not saying that you'd have no path forward, but that's the easiest response and most clear response I can give to you.
And don't think the silliness isn't lost on us. The thing is that the next homeowner that decides to demo their chimney because they didn't want to pay for it, and then says, sorry, I just did it. They need to rebuild their chimney. It's not about necessarily this chimney, which is a much bigger chimney, but it's the next homeowner. I had to rebuild 4 chimneys on my house that I don't use, right? Like so I appreciate it. That this seems a little ridiculous in the overall grand scheme of things, but we have to take it in the bigger scheme of what we're doing here as a commission. So while we may never get this chimney back, we realize that, but that doesn't stop us from trying and doing all the things that we have to do to do our duty as a commission.
I appreciate the time. I appreciate the flexibility and things.
No, that appreciate your transparency too as well. I mean, so we really do appreciate that from that perspective. The one thing though I will say though is that you have a great consultant from that perspective too as well. So I think that, there's some information that was shared today of how, like, I feel like there's a path. We just need to support and without putting ourselves in the wrong spot, as Reed mentioned. So we really need you guys to dig up and try to understand and make sure that we're clarity on what we're approving or not approving, to try to help us in the future too as well. Okay. Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. So we had number 4 and I think 7, if I remember correctly. I think I circled
We
them.
came back to 7.
7 came back.
Yeah,
So-
but good memory. Yeah, number 4.
Thank you.
And they may come back in the future. We just wanted to make sure to include them in case. But
I don't know. We have another applicant.
are you here for a particular application? What number application or what's the address? I'm sorry. And did you receive, an email confirming that you were on the agenda this evening? Okay, it sounds like you might have had maybe a prior notification for like a past meeting. Okay, we don't have the application on the agenda today. We could certainly look into see where it was left off. And then could you, repeat the address one more time for me so I can write it down, make sure I have the right address? Okay, thank you. Okay, I will be in touch then and look into where that was. Unfortunately, I don't have the information now, having switched on to this commission, so I don't have the background knowledge of where it's at, but we'll follow up with you. Yeah, you're welcome to email as well. So it'd be the same Victorian Village email address, vvc@columbus.gov. The VVC just stands for Victorian Village Commission. Yeah, I'm not sure yet. I'm going to look into it because there might be some outlying information or maybe there's not. I just don't have the context of if anything additional is needed or not. But I'll follow up and you're welcome to email VVC in the meantime. Otherwise, you'll be hearing from me. It sounded like you submitted an application, is that correct? Okay. Because if you submitted an application in the online portal, then we'll have your information, since I have your address or. Yeah, so if you submitted, we'll have your information then. Thank you.
Sorry for the mix-up. So then we need to go back to 4 and just.
Yes,
have that
thank you,
application.
Sean.
No worries. Oh. Do you need to say anything, or can we go ahead and just reference that application to be able to?
Yeah, I would just, if we could. No, you're all good. If we just motion to continue, they may come in the future, but,
Okay. Is there a motion for application 4?
Motion to continue COA 250147 for 235 West First.
Is there a second, team?
Second?
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Continue.
great. All right, and that is it for our applications today. No new business, no old business, so just would be needing a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn. Say aye.